you have just woken up as a gorilla in a misty African mountain forest. For the next 3 hours, you are going to experience thunderous, chest-beating battles, daring treetop fruit hunts, and even a tense standoff with a charging elephant. And this won't be easy, so good luck. But before we get into this journey of the gorilla, I'd appreciate it if you could subscribe, like the video, and why not leave a comment on where you are tuning in from, and what animal you want me to cover next. Now, let's begin this epic adventure together. The subtle shift in morning air temperature carries messages that only a lifetime of forest experience can properly interpret. What seems like minor daily variation to casual observers represents the beginning of one of the most significant events in your family's annual cycle, the seasonal migration, that will take you from the misty highlands, where you've spent the dry months, down to the rich lowland feeding grounds that will sustain your family through the approaching wet season. This migration isn't a simple change of address, but a complex undertaking that requires careful timing, route planning, and assessment of your family's physical readiness for the challenges ahead. The decision to begin this journey rests entirely on your shoulders as the family leader, and the consequences of poor timing or route selection could prove fatal for the most vulnerable members of your group. The temperature differential that triggers migration instincts is remarkably subtle, perhaps only 2 or 3 degrees of average change that signals the approaching shift from dry season to wet season weather patterns. But your body's internal calendar, refined through millions of years of evolutionary pressure, responds to these minimal cues with the reliability of atomic clock precision. Your assessment of family readiness involves complex calculations about the physical condition of each member and their ability to handle the demanding journey ahead. The pregnant females who will give birth during the wet season need to complete migration before their expanding bellies make travel too difficult. The youngest juveniles must have reached sufficient size and strength to handle extended daily travel without exhaustion that could slow the entire group's progress. The route selection process draws upon spatial memory accumulated through years of seasonal migrations, creating a mental map that encompasses dozens of possible pathways between highlands and lowlands. Some routes offer easier travel, but expose your family to greater predator risks. Others provide better security, but require more demanding physical exertion. Your choice must balance multiple factors while accounting for current conditions that might have changed since last year's journey. The altitude acclimation challenges that accompany migration affect every member of your family differently. Moving from the thin air of highland forests to the oxygen-rich environment of lowland areas creates physiological adjustments that can cause temporary discomfort and reduced performance. Your massive cardiovascular system must adapt to new atmospheric pressure while maintaining the physical performance needed for family protection. The newborn challenges presented by migration timing create some of the most difficult decisions you'll face as a family leader. Infants born during migration periods face dramatically higher mortality rates than those born in stable territorial locations. But delaying migration to accommodate new mothers might mean arriving at lowland feeding grounds after peak food availability has passed, creating different but equally serious survival challenges. The predator suite changes dramatically as your family moves between highland and lowland environments. The leopards that represent primary threats in highland forests give way to different dangers in lowland areas. Larger concentrations of human activity, different snake species with varying venom potencies, and the occasional presence of crocodiles near lowland water sources. Your threat assessment protocols must adapt continuously as the environment changes around you. The panoramic vistas that become visible during highland portions of your migration route provide not just aesthetic beauty, but crucial navigation information. From elevated positions, you can observe weather patterns developing across vast landscapes, identify potential obstacles or opportunities along your intended route, and assess the general condition of the lowland territories that represent your destination. The social dynamics within your family group often shift during migration periods as the stress of extended travel and environmental change creates new challenges for group cohesion. Individuals who normally maintain peaceful relationships might become irritable or competitive when faced with the uncertainties and physical demands of major relocation. The navigation techniques you employ during migration demonstrate sophisticated spatial reasoning that rivals human GPS technology in its accuracy and reliability. Your mental map includes not just geographic features but seasonal variations in food availability, water source reliability, and safe sleeping locations that change throughout the year based on weather patterns and ecological cycles. The foraging opportunities that emerge during migration often include plant species and food sources that aren't available in either highland or lowland territories year-round. These transitional feeding opportunities provide nutritional variety that supplements your family's diet, while offering temporary abundance that can help build energy reserves for the remaining journey. The weather monitoring skills you employ during migration involve reading atmospheric conditions with meteorological sophistication. Cloud formations, wind patterns, humidity changes, and subtle pressure variations all provide information about approaching weather systems that could affect travel safety and route viability. The community dynamics shift as your family encounters other guerrilla groups who might be following similar migration routes or establishing temporary territories in transitional zones. These meetings require diplomatic skills that balance territorial assertion with the practical benefits of sharing information about route conditions and resource availability. The energy management strategies you employ during migration must balance the need for steady progress against the conservation of strength needed for family protection and leadership. Daily travel distances must be calibrated to challenge family members without exhausting them, while rest periods must provide adequate recovery without losing valuable travel time. The landmark recognition skills that guide your migration depend on memory systems that store detailed information about geographic features, vegetation patterns, and seasonal changes that occur along migration routes. Rock formations, distinctive trees, and water sources serve as navigation checkpoints that confirm your family's progress along the intended route. The risk assessment calculations that govern migration decisions involve projecting future conditions based on current observations and historical patterns. You must evaluate whether lowland territories will provide adequate resources when your family arrives, whether competing guerrilla families might have claimed key areas, and whether human activity patterns might create new dangers along traditional routes. The physiological adaptations that accompany altitude change affect everything from breathing efficiency to digestive function as your family's bodies adjust to new environmental conditions. The richer oxygen content of lowland air improves physical performance, but requires cardiovascular adjustments that can create temporary fatigue and disorientation. The cultural knowledge transmission that occurs during migration provides young family members with essential education about navigation, route selection, and survival strategies that extend far beyond daily territorial movements. This traveling education exposes juveniles to environmental diversity and challenges that prepare them for future leadership responsibilities. The seasonal timing precision required for successful migration reflects sophisticated understanding of ecological cycles that govern food production, weather patterns, and predator activity throughout your range. Arriving too early at lowland destinations might mean facing resource scarcity, while late arrival could result in finding prime territories already claimed by competing families. As your family crests the final ridge before beginning the descent into lowland territories, the vista that spreads before you represents both destination and new beginning. The rich green canopy that stretches to the horizon promises abundant food and favorable conditions, but it also presents new challenges and opportunities that will test your leadership skills throughout the wet season ahead. Rival band tents. Standoff at the clearing. The morning silence breaks with a sound that freezes every member of your family in immediate, terror-laden attention, the unmistakable chest beating of another mature silverback gorilla, close enough that the rhythmic booming echoes through the forest with threatening clarity. This isn't the distant drumming of a neighbor announcing territory from safe distances. This is the acoustic signature of direct challenge. A rival male asserting dominance in what you've considered your family's secure feeding area. Your response is instantaneous and primal, rising from genetic programming that has governed silverback confrontations for millions of years. Your own chest beating begins as an automatic reply, the hollow percussion of your cupped hands against your barrel chest, creating counter rhythms that announce your presence and unwillingness to yield. The sound seems to emerge from your very core, a vocal expression of power that resonates through your massive frame and projects across the forest with authority that demands recognition. Through the green curtain of forest vegetation, you catch glimpses of movement that confirm your worst fears. Another family group has entered your territory, led by a silverback, whose size and confidence suggest he's not planning a brief visit. The flash of silver fur through the trees, the coordinated movement of multiple individuals, and the continued acoustic challenges all point to a serious territorial incursion that must be addressed immediately and decisively. The dust that begins to swirl in the forest clearing comes from the ground-slapping displays that both silverbacks employ to demonstrate their physical power and emotional intensity. Your massive hands strike the earth with impacts that send vibrations through the forest floor, while the shower of leaves and debris that your displays create adds visual drama to the acoustic intimidation. Every strike sends a clear message: this territory is occupied by a mature male in his prime who will not yield without a fight. Your family's response to the crisis follows protocols developed through countless generations of territorial conflicts. The females immediately gather the youngest members and position themselves near escape routes while maintaining visual contact with your leadership signals. Their eyes never leave you as they await instructions that could mean the difference between successful defense and catastrophic family disruption. The juveniles in your family watch with wide-eyed fascination and terror as their protector faces the greatest challenge to their security they've ever witnessed. This confrontation will serve as their education in the realities of guerrilla territorial politics, demonstrating the constant vigilance and physical courage required to maintain family safety in an environment where resources are limited and competition is lethal. The rival silverback emerges into full view with the kind of confident swagger that suggests either supreme self-assurance or dangerous desperation. His massive frame rivals your own in size and obvious strength, while the battle scars visible on his face and arms tell stories of previous confrontations that he's survived and possibly won. This isn't an inexperienced young male testing boundaries. This is a seasoned competitor who represents serious threat to your family's continued security. The escalation choreography that unfolds follows ancient patterns that seem designed to allow both combatants maximum opportunity to assess each other's capabilities before committing to potentially fatal violence. Each display builds upon the previous one in intensity and proximity, creating a ritualized dance of aggression that serves both as intimidation and intelligence gathering. Your advanced displays include the branch-breaking demonstrations that showcase your raw physical power, while adding new dimensions to the acoustic intimidation. When you grasp a substantial tree limb and snap it like a twig, the sharp crack echoes through the forest, while the visible destruction provides unmistakable evidence of the damage you could inflict on any creature foolish enough to challenge you directly. The rival's response matches your escalation with his own demonstrations of strength and ferocity. His vocalizations shift from territorial announcements to what can only be described as roars of challenge, deep-throated sounds that seem to emerge from the earth itself. The psychological pressure of hearing another silverback's battle cry at close range creates stress responses that test your own emotional control and tactical judgment. The females from both family groups maintain careful distances while herding their offspring away from the potential battlefield. Their own vocalizations create a background chorus of anxiety and encouragement that adds emotional intensity to the confrontation while serving as constant reminder of what's at stake in this territorial dispute. The dust cloud that swirls around the clearing has grown thick enough to create visual confusion that adds new tactical dimensions to the confrontation. Both silverbacks must now rely more heavily on acoustic cues and peripheral vision, while maintaining the aggressive displays that could determine the outcome without actual physical combat. The critical decision point arrives when both silverbacks must choose between continued escalation toward actual violence or the search for face-saving alternatives that allow territorial resolution without the catastrophic injuries that guerrilla combat can produce. The energy expenditure of sustained aggressive display is enormous, and the physical risks of actual combat could prove fatal to both combatants. Your assessment of the rival's emotional state becomes crucial as you evaluate whether he's genuinely prepared to fight to the death for this territory, or whether his displays represent calculated bluffing designed to secure resource access without paying the ultimate price. Reading these psychological cues requires experience and judgment that separate successful silverbacks from those who die young in unnecessary confrontations. The turning point comes when you notice subtle changes in the rival's display patterns that suggest his initial confidence might be wavering. His chest beating becomes slightly less rhythmic, his vocalizations lose some of their threatening edge, and his body positioning begins to angle away from direct confrontation toward potential retreat routes. Your strategic response capitalizes on these signs of uncertainty by maintaining aggressive pressure while providing the rival with opportunities for dignified withdrawal. This delicate balance allows both silverbacks to preserve their reputations while avoiding the potentially catastrophic consequences of actual combat. The controlled retreat that eventually resolves the confrontation occurs gradually, with the rival family group withdrawing in stages that maintain their cohesion while acknowledging your superior claim to the disputed territory. The process takes nearly an hour from first contact to final resolution, demonstrating the complex negotiations that can occur between intelligent social animals when survival interests conflict. The lessons learned from successful territorial defense become part of the experiential knowledge that strengthens your confidence and improves your tactical abilities for future confrontations. Each successful challenge overcome adds to your reputation and reduces the likelihood that other rivals will test your resolve in future territorial disputes. As the rival family disappears into the forest depths and normal acoustic patterns gradually return to your territory, the relief that flows through your family group is almost palpable. The successful defense has preserved their access to critical resources, while demonstrating once again that their protector possesses the strength and wisdom necessary to keep them safe in a dangerous world. Loss, lament, mourning a fallen elder. The mourning brings with it a stillness that feels different from the usual forest quiet, a heavy silence that seems to press down on your family like a physical weight. Grandmother Kessie, the ancient matriarch whose wisdom has guided your family through countless challenges over her nearly 4 decades of life, lies motionless in the nest she constructed yesterday evening with hands that seem to know, somehow, that this would be her final architectural project. Her passing came quietly during the pre-dawn hours, as peaceful as anyone could hope for after a life that had seen the forest change dramatically around her. The illness that had been slowly sapping her strength for weeks finally claimed the body that had carried her through decades of migrations, territorial conflicts, and the successful raising of 7 offspring who now form the backbone of your extended family group. Your approach to her still form is careful and reverent, your massive frame moving with the kind of gentle attention usually reserved for newborn infants. The finality of death is something that gorillas understand with profound clarity, and the grief that begins to well up in your chest carries emotional weight that surprises you with its intensity. This female had been part of your family since before your own birth, a constant presence whose steady influence had shaped virtually every aspect of your development as a silverback. The soft hoots that begin to emerge from family members gathered around Casey's nest represent the beginning of a mourning ritual that demonstrates the emotional complexity of gorilla social relationships. These aren't random vocalizations, but specific grief calls that serve to communicate loss while bringing the family together in shared sorrow. The sounds are heartbreaking in their obvious pain and confusion. Young gorillas who had never experienced death within their immediate family circle approach their grandmother's body with tentative curiosity, mixed with instinctive understanding that something fundamental has changed. Their small hands reach out to touch her cooling fur with the gentle exploration that characterizes their investigation of anything new or puzzling in their environment. The vigil that develops around Casey's body reflects behaviors that scientists are only beginning to understand in wild gorilla populations. Your family settles into a rough circle around their fallen matriarch, some individuals maintaining physical contact with her body, while others position themselves close enough to observe without crowding. This gathering seems to serve important psychological functions in processing the reality of loss. The leaf-covering ritual, that begins spontaneously among several family members, represents one of the most remarkable behaviors ever documented in wild gorilla populations. Without any apparent coordination or instruction, individuals begin placing fresh leaves and small branches over portions of Casey's body, creating a natural shroud that seems to reflect instinctive understanding of ceremonial burial concepts. The days-long quiet that follows Casey's death transforms the normal acoustic landscape of your family's territory into something almost cathedral-like in its respectful silence. The usual chatter of daily communication, the playful sounds of juvenile interaction, and even routine feeding vocalizations are dramatically reduced, as if the entire family understands that normal noise levels would somehow be inappropriate during this period of mourning. Your own grief manifests in ways that would be recognizable to any human who has lost a beloved family member. The hollow feeling in your chest, the moments of forgetting followed by fresh waves of realization, and the impulse to look for Casey in her usual resting spots all represent emotional responses that transcend species, boundaries, and connect you to the universal experience of loss. The scientific evidence supporting genuine grief behaviors in gorilla populations has been accumulating for decades, challenging earlier assumptions that complex emotions were exclusively human characteristics. Documented behaviors include prolonged attention to deceased family members, decreased appetite and activity levels, and social withdrawal that can last for weeks following significant losses. The youngest family members seem to experience particular confusion about Casey's sudden absence from daily activities. They repeatedly approach locations where she typically rested or fed, appearing to search for the familiar presence that had been a constant in their young lives. Their obvious distress adds another layer of poignancy to the family's collective mourning process. The practical challenges created by Casey's death extend beyond emotional grief to encompass real changes in family dynamics and survival capabilities. Her knowledge of seasonal feeding locations, her skill at mediating conflicts between family members, and her ability to assess environmental threats represented irreplaceable resources that disappeared with her passing. The social restructuring that begins in the wake of Casey's death involves subtle but significant changes in family hierarchies and relationships. Other mature females must step into leadership roles that she had filled, while younger family members lose the security and guidance that her presence had provided throughout their development. Your responsibility as the family's protector takes on new dimensions as you observe the psychological impact of loss on each family member and adjust your leadership approach to accommodate their individual grief responses. Some individuals need additional attention and comfort, while others require space to process their emotions privately. The memory preservation that characterizes gorilla responses to death includes returning repeatedly to locations associated with the deceased individual. Your family makes pilgrimages to Casey's favorite feeding spots, resting areas, and travel routes, behaviors that seem to serve important functions in maintaining emotional connections to lost family members. The gradual healing process that eventually allows your family to resume normal activities occurs slowly and unevenly, with different individuals recovering at different rates, depending on their relationship with Kessie and their personal coping abilities. The youngest members typically bounce back most quickly, while older individuals who had longer relationships with the deceased show more prolonged grief responses. The lessons about mortality that Kessie's death teaches younger family members become part of their emotional education about the realities of forest life. Understanding that death is natural and inevitable helps prepare them for future losses while deepening their appreciation for the time they have with living family members. The legacy that Kessie leaves behind lives on in the behaviors, knowledge, and survival skills she transmitted to the family members who will continue her genetic and cultural contributions to future generations. Her influence on feeding techniques, conflict resolution strategies, and social relationships will continue to shape family dynamics long after her physical presence has become just memory. As your family gradually emerges from the intense mourning period and begins to re-engage with normal activities, the empty space left by Kessie's absence remains palpable, but becomes part of the new normal that defines life after loss. The successful navigation of grief represents another example of the emotional sophistication that makes gorilla families remarkably similar to human families in their capacity for love, loss, and healing. High canopy feast, rare fig bloom celebration. The sweet aroma that filters down through 30 meters of forest canopy carries news that transforms an ordinary morning into what can only be described as a holiday celebration. High above, in the sun-drenched crown of an ancient strangler fig, millions of ripe fruits hang like purple jewels against the green backdrop of leaves. This is the kind of rare windfall that occurs perhaps once or twice each year, when the complex ecological timing of fig trees produces abundance so spectacular that it draws frugivorous animals from kilometers around. Your assessment of the climbing challenge ahead requires careful evaluation of both the physical demands and the potential rewards. 30 meters represents serious elevation for a creature of your massive proportions, but the nutritional payoff from accessing fresh figs during peak ripeness could provide energy reserves that last for weeks. The decision to attempt this arboreal expedition isn't made lightly. Your 180 kilograms of muscle and bone weren't designed for extensive tree climbing. The biomechanics of gorilla arboreal movement represent one of evolution's most impressive adaptations to the challenge of moving large bodies through three-dimensional forest environments. Your powerful arms provide the primary lifting force, while your legs serve as stabilizing platforms and secondary support systems. Each movement must be calculated to distribute weight safely across multiple contact points while maintaining momentum toward your elevated destination. Your hands test each potential handhold with methodical care, reading the structural integrity of branches through touch and subtle pressure application. Dead wood feels different from living branches, while hollow sections create distinctive acoustic signatures when tapped. This tactile analysis allows you to identify reliable supports while avoiding structural failures that could result in catastrophic falls. The climbing technique you employ differs dramatically from the swinging locomotion that smaller primates use to navigate the canopy. Instead of acrobatic leaps between branches, you move with deliberate precision, always maintaining 3 points of contact while carefully transferring weight to the next secure position. This conservative approach sacrifices speed for safety, reflecting the wisdom that comes with understanding the consequences of mistakes at elevation. Your family members who accompany you on this vertical journey demonstrate their own adaptations to arboreal challenge. The lighter females and juveniles can utilize smaller branches that wouldn't support your weight, allowing them to follow alternative routes that meet at the same destination. Their climbing creates a distributed approach that reduces stress on any individual tree branch while maximizing access to the fruiting bonanza above. The fig tree itself represents a monument to successful tropical forest ecology, its massive trunk hollowed by the gradual decay of the host tree it originally strangled decades ago. The complex internal architecture provides numerous climbing routes and resting platforms, while the external buttresses offer stable launching points for accessing the fruit-laden branches that spread like green umbrellas against the sky. The ascent requires frequent rest periods that allow your cardiovascular system to adjust to the increased energy demands of vertical travel while carrying massive body weight. These pauses provide opportunities to assess progress, evaluate route options for the remaining climb, and enjoy the changing perspective as the forest floor recedes below your climbing position. The honey-sweet figs that await your arrival represent perfection in natural food production. Each fruit contains complex sugars that provide immediate energy, while the soft texture requires minimal processing by your powerful molars. The abundance is so extraordinary that selection becomes unnecessary. To a fig, within reach, offers the same premium quality that makes this climbing effort worthwhile. The sun-dappled environment of the high canopy creates a completely different world from the shadowy forest floor where your family normally spends its time. The increased light intensity, higher temperatures, and direct access to sky create microclimate conditions that feel almost alien compared to the cool, humid understory that comprises your usual habitat. The social dynamics of canopy feeding reflect the transformed environment and elevated energy levels that accompany successful fig discovery. Family members who might maintain respectful distances during ground-level foraging cluster closely together in the limited space available among fruit-laden branches. This proximity creates opportunities for playful interaction and social bonding that strengthen family relationships. The sticky fig juice that coats your hands and face during intensive feeding becomes a badge of successful foraging that will mark your family for hours after returning to ground level. This natural paint serves as advertisement to other forest inhabitants about your recent access to premium food sources, potentially influencing territorial dynamics and resource competition. The troop camaraderie that develops during canopy feasting represents some of the most relaxed and enjoyable social interaction your family experiences throughout the year. The combination of abundant food, elevated position, and successful completion of challenging climbing creates euphoria that enhances social bonding and mutual affection among family members. The energy calculations that make high canopy foraging worthwhile become apparent as your body processes the massive caloric input from premium fruit consumption. The sugars provide immediate fuel for muscles and brain function, while the overall nutritional density allows dramatic improvement in body condition that will support future survival challenges. The panoramic views available from canopy elevation provide intelligence-gathering opportunities that ground-level existence never offers. From 30 meters above the forest floor, you can observe weather patterns developing across vast landscapes, identify the locations of other fruiting trees that might provide future foraging opportunities, and assess territorial boundaries with geographic perspective that enhances navigation and strategic planning. The descent that eventually becomes necessary requires even more careful attention than the initial climb, as gravity creates additional challenges for safe navigation. The satisfaction of successful high canopy foraging must be balanced against the continued need for cautious movement until your family safely returns to the familiar security of ground-level existence. The memory of successful fig feasting becomes part of the seasonal knowledge that guides future foraging decisions and territorial movements. The timing, location, and quality of this fruiting event provide data points that inform predictions about when and where similar opportunities might arise in future years. As your family finally reaches the forest floor with bellies full of premium fruit and hands still sticky with fig juice, the successful completion of this challenging foraging expedition represents another triumph in the constant quest for optimal nutrition. The rare combination of abundance, accessibility, and perfect timing has provided an experience that will be remembered and discussed throughout the family for weeks to come. Passing knowledge, Young Silverback's first challenge. The morning's peaceful foraging routine is shattered by the raucous approach of a group of boisterous adolescent males whose testosterone-fueled confidence far exceeds their actual fighting ability. These young gorillas, recently expelled from their natal families and forming temporary bachelor groups while seeking territories of their own, represent exactly the kind of challenge that tests leadership skills and family loyalty under real-world conditions. Your apprentice, a young silverback named Django, who has been shadowing your leadership for months while learning the complex skills required for family protection, steps forward with the mixture of eagerness and anxiety that characterizes inexperienced leaders facing their first serious test. His silverback markings are still developing, and his chest beating lacks the thunderous authority that comes with full maturity. But his commitment to family defense is absolute. The evaluation you conduct of both the threat level and Django's readiness involves complex calculations about adolescent male behavior patterns, the specific individuals involved in this challenge, and your apprentice's current capabilities. These young challengers are dangerous, not because of superior strength, but because of their unpredictability and willingness to take risks that more experienced males would avoid. Your positioning during this confrontation demonstrates the delicate balance between providing necessary backup support and allowing Django sufficient autonomy to develop his own leadership confidence. Too much intervention undermines his authority and learning opportunities, while insufficient support could result in serious injury or family disruption if the situation escalates beyond his capabilities. The subtle grunts and body language, cues you use to guide Django's responses, represent sophisticated mentorship that operates almost below the threshold of conscious communication. A slight shift in your posture suggests tactical adjustments, while soft vocalizations provide encouragement or warnings that help him navigate the complex choreography of guerrilla confrontation protocols. Django's initial response follows the classical escalation patterns you've demonstrated countless times during his observation period. His chest beating begins tentatively, but gains confidence as he settles into the familiar rhythm, while his vocalizations shift from nervous uncertainty to growing authority. The transformation is remarkable to observe as natural leadership instincts override anxiety and self-doubt. The adolescent challengers respond to Django's displays with the kind of theatrical posturing that characterizes young males testing boundaries throughout the animal kingdom. Their own chest beating is energetic but lacks coordinated timing, while their vocalizations include more bluffing than genuine threat. This allows experienced observers to assess their actual commitment level versus superficial bravado. Your assessment of Django's tactical decisions reveals both promising leadership potential and areas requiring additional development. His route selection during movement displays demonstrates good spatial awareness, while his timing of escalation shows improving judgment about when to increase pressure and when to allow opponents opportunities for face-saving retreat. The family's response to this leadership transition reflects their growing confidence in Django's abilities, combined with continued reliance on your ultimate authority for serious decisions. Family members position themselves to support his leadership while maintaining visual contact with you for final guidance, if circumstances exceed his current capabilities. The learning curve that young silverbacks must navigate includes not just physical confrontation skills, but also the psychological management of leadership stress and responsibility. The pressure of protecting family members while making split-second decisions under challenging conditions requires emotional maturity that develops only through practical experience. The succession planning that this apprenticeship represents addresses crucial long-term survival issues for your family group. Django's successful development as a capable leader ensures continuity of protection and guidance, even if age, injury, or death eventually removes you from active leadership. This knowledge transfer represents invaluable insurance for family security. The genetic diversity considerations that influence your mentorship of potential successors reflect sophisticated understanding of population dynamics and reproductive success. Django's eventual establishment of his own family group will help maintain genetic health within the broader gorilla community, while reducing inbreeding risks that could compromise future generations. The tactical retreat that eventually resolves this confrontation occurs gradually, as the adolescent challengers recognize that they're facing more organized and determined opposition than they initially anticipated. Django's growing confidence, combined with your steady backup presence, creates a formidable defensive combination that discourages further escalation. The debriefing that follows successful challenge resolution provides crucial learning opportunities for Django to process his performance and identify areas for improvement. Your gentle guidance helps him understand which decisions were optimal and which tactical adjustments might improve future outcomes. The pride that becomes evident in Django's bearing after successfully handling his first serious leadership challenge represents a significant milestone in his development toward full silverback maturity. The confidence gained through practical success creates positive feedback loops that accelerate his continued growth as a leader and protector. The family stability that results from successful leadership development reduces anxiety and stress levels throughout the group while improving overall survival prospects. When family members trust in the capabilities of their protectors, they can focus energy on foraging, social bonding, and offspring care rather than constant vigilance about security threats. The reputation building that accompanies successful challenge defense begins to establish Django's credibility within the broader gorilla community. Other groups will take note of his growing competence, affecting future territorial interactions and social dynamics throughout your range. The future stability considerations that guide your succession planning reflect deep understanding of the challenges that gorilla families face in an increasingly pressured environment. Climate change, habitat loss, and human encroachment create new survival challenges that require adaptable, intelligent leadership capable of making innovative decisions under unprecedented conditions. As the immediate challenge fades into memory and normal family activities resume, the successful completion of Django's first major leadership test represents progress toward the long-term goal of establishing him as an independent silverback capable of protecting his own family. The knowledge and confidence gained through this experience will serve him throughout his future career as a leader and protector in the complex social world of forest gorillas. Symphony of rain overnight, downpour, dawn renewal. The approaching storm announces itself through subtle atmospheric changes that your weather-sensitive body reads like pages in an ancient book of forest wisdom. The humidity rises to levels that make the air feel thick and electric, while distant thunder rumbles with the promise of the overnight deluge that will transform your forest world into a liquid landscape of sound and sensation. Your family's preparation for the night-long downpour follows protocols developed through countless generations of tropical storm survival. Nest construction tonight requires special attention to drainage and structural integrity, as the platform that seems adequate for normal nights must now withstand hours of driving rain and buffeting winds that could turn sleeping quarters into death traps. The branches you select for tonight's elevated shelter receive extra scrutiny for their water-shedding properties and wind resistance capabilities. The angle of construction must promote runoff while maintaining structural stability, creating architecture that protects rather than channels the enormous quantities of water that will soon cascade from the storm-laden sky. The sensation of settling into your carefully prepared nest as the first heavy raindrops begin their percussion against the forest canopy above creates anticipation mixed with the profound satisfaction that comes from successful preparation. Your massive frame finds comfort in the woven platform, while your senses remain alert to the developing acoustic symphony that will provide tonight's soundtrack. The overnight storm that follows represents one of nature's most spectacular productions, transforming the familiar forest into an alien landscape where water becomes the dominant element and sound reaches levels that make communication impossible. The rain doesn't simply fall, it descends in sheets and torrents that create white noise so intense it seems to emerge from inside your own consciousness. The swaying branches that support your elevated nest create a gentle rocking motion that, combined with the rhythmic percussion of rain on leaves, produces surprisingly soothing sensations despite the storm's obvious power. Your body adjusts to this natural cradle motion, finding balance and comfort even as the forest around you transforms into a vertical river system. The sensation of rain penetrating the forest canopy and reaching your nest platform arrives not as unwelcome wetness, but as cool relief from the oppressive humidity that preceded the storm. The water that reaches your fur carries the clean scent of atmospheric purification, washing away the accumulated dust and debris of daily forest life. Your family members in nearby nests experience their own versions of this overnight natural spa treatment, with each individual finding personal ways to manage the water input while maintaining the core body temperature necessary for survival. The younger family members often seem to enjoy the storm more than adults, treating the overnight downpour as adventure rather than endurance test. The acoustic environment created by tropical storms encompasses a frequency spectrum that ranges from the ultrasonic percussion of individual raindrops to the subsonic rumbling of thunder that seems to emerge from the earth itself. This natural sound bath creates neurological responses that promote relaxation and deep sleep, despite the obvious drama occurring in the environment around you. The lightning displays that accompany the most intense portions of the overnight storm provide brief illumination that transforms the rain-soaked forest into something magical and otherworldly. The strobing light reveals cascading water in frozen moments that look like liquid crystal sculptures suspended throughout the three-dimensional forest architecture. The thermal regulation that your body maintains during the overnight cooling requires subtle adjustments to posture and nest position that maximize comfort while conserving energy. The evaporation of rainwater from your fur creates cooling effects that must be balanced against heat loss that could compromise immune function or energy reserves. The dawn mist that begins to rise as the storm gradually diminishes creates ethereal atmospheric conditions that seem to emerge from fantasy rather than meteorological reality. The combination of residual moisture and rising temperatures generates fog patterns that drift between trees like living spirits, celebrating the forest's renewal. The morning air that emerges from the night-long purification carries scents of extraordinary complexity and freshness. Every plant, every soil particle, every surface has been washed clean and recharged with moisture, creating olfactory richness that makes normal forest air seem stale by comparison. This is the smell of life itself, renewed and refreshed through nature's most fundamental process. The moss and lichens that cover virtually every surface in the forest respond to the overnight moisture input with visible transformation. Colors become more vibrant, textures appear more lush, and the general appearance of forest surfaces shifts from merely green to emerald brilliance that seems to glow with internal light. The water collection opportunities that follow major storms provide your family with access to the purest drinking water available in the forest environment. Pools formed in tree hollows, streams created by runoff patterns, and the countless droplets that bead on leaf surfaces offer hydration that tastes of sky and clouds rather than earth and vegetation. The symbolic cleansing that accompanies major storm systems seems to reset more than just physical conditions in the forest environment. The psychological effect of surviving dramatic weather events while remaining safe and comfortable creates a sense of renewal and fresh beginning that affects mood and energy levels throughout your family group. The new cycle preparation that begins as normal forest sounds gradually return to the post-storm environment includes assessment of any changes that the overnight deluge might have created in familiar territories. Streams may have changed course, fallen trees might block traditional travel routes, and new opportunities for food or shelter might have emerged from storm-related landscape modifications. The forest heartbeat that slowly reasserts itself as the storm's overwhelming presence recedes feels like the return of an old friend whose temporary absence made normal life impossible. The gradual resumption of bird calls, insect activity, and small mammal movement creates growing confidence that the natural order has survived another dramatic test and emerged stronger for the experience. As consciousness gradually emerges from the deep rest that storm nights seem to promote, and normal forest activities begin to call your family back to routine responsibilities, the successful navigation of another tropical deluge provides quiet satisfaction about your ability to thrive in an environment where dramatic weather represents just another manageable challenge in the complex symphony of forest. Survival. New dawn legacy of the forest giants. The soft light of another forest dawn finds you settled in contemplation at the edge of a small clearing, where the canopy opens just enough to allow direct sunlight to reach the forest floor. This moment of quiet reflection comes at the end of a week that has encompassed the full spectrum of experiences that define life as a mountain gorilla: daily rhythms of foraging and rest, the challenges of territory defense and family protection, and the deeper meanings that emerge from a life lived in harmony with one of Earth's most complex ecosystems. Your massive frame, scarred by decades of leadership challenges, but still powerful enough to command respect from any creature in the forest, represents the culmination of evolutionary processes that stretch back millions of years. Every aspect of your physical form, from the silver saddle that marks your maturity to the gentle hands capable of both devastating violence and tender care, tells the story of a species that has mastered the art of forest survival through intelligence, strength, and social cooperation. The rhythms that have governed this week's activities reflect patterns older than human civilization, ancient cycles of feeding and resting, traveling and territorial defense that have sustained gorilla families through countless generations. These rituals aren't simply survival behaviors, they're cultural traditions that connect your family to the deep history of your species and ensure that essential knowledge passes from parents to offspring in an unbroken chain of forest wisdom. Your resilience in the face of challenges, both natural and human-made, demonstrates the remarkable adaptability that has allowed mountain gorillas to persist despite pressures that have driven countless other species to extinction. The ability to modify behavior in response to changing conditions, to learn from experience and pass that knowledge to future generations, represents intelligence that deserves recognition and protection from those who share this planet. The kinship bonds that unite your family group extend far beyond simple biological relationships to encompass emotional connections that would be recognizable in any human family. The love you feel for your offspring, the grief that accompanies loss, the joy of successful challenges overcome together. These emotions connect you to universal experiences that transcend species, boundaries, and demonstrate the fundamental similarities between human and gorilla hearts. The quiet majesty that characterizes your daily existence reflects dignity that doesn't require recognition or applause to maintain its essential nobility. Your commitment to family protection, your patient guidance of younger generations, and your respectful coexistence with other forest inhabitants demonstrate values that human societies often struggle to achieve despite their technological advantages and complex social systems. The forest that has been your family's home for generations faces pressures that threaten not just individual gorilla families, but entire ecosystems that have developed over millions of years. Climate change, habitat destruction, and human encroachment create challenges that require responses beyond the capabilities of any single species, no matter how intelligent or adaptable they might be. The responsibility that humans bear for gorilla conservation reflects the unique position that technological civilization occupies in planetary ecosystems. The power to destroy or protect, to preserve ancient forests, or convert them to temporary human uses, places moral obligations on human societies that previous generations could never have imagined. The hope that drives conservation efforts worldwide emerges from growing recognition that the loss of species like mountain gorillas would represent irreplaceable tragedy for global biodiversity. The intelligence, emotional complexity, and ecological importance that characterize gorilla families provide compelling arguments for protection efforts that benefit not just individual animals, but entire forest ecosystems. The listener who has shared this week's journey through gorilla existence carries with them the power to influence conservation outcomes through personal choices and political support that can determine whether future generations will share their planet with these remarkable forest giants. The knowledge gained through intimate understanding of gorilla lives creates obligations to act on behalf of species who cannot advocate for themselves. The protection that gorilla families require extends beyond simple habitat preservation to encompass educational efforts that help human societies understand the value of biodiversity and the connections between healthy ecosystems and human welfare. The forests that support gorilla families also provide clean water, climate regulation, and countless other ecosystem services that benefit all life on Earth. The individual actions that collectively determine conservation success include everything from consumer choices that affect habitat destruction to political engagement that influences government policies toward environmental protection. The cumulative effect of millions of people making informed decisions about their relationship with the natural world can create the social pressure necessary for meaningful conservation action. The time remaining to implement effective gorilla conservation measures continues to shrink as human population growth and economic development create increasing pressure on the limited forest habitats where mountain gorillas can survive. The urgency of current conservation challenges requires immediate action, rather than the gradual policy changes that might have been sufficient in previous decades. The legacy that current human generations will leave regarding gorilla conservation depends entirely on decisions being made right now about development priorities, resource allocation, and the value placed on biodiversity preservation. The choice between short-term economic gains and long-term ecological health represents one of the defining moral challenges of contemporary civilization. The sentinels that mountain gorillas represent in their forest homes serve as indicators of ecosystem health and warnings about environmental changes that affect all species sharing those habitats. Their continued survival provides hope that intelligent conservation efforts can succeed even under challenging conditions, while their extinction would signal broader ecological collapse with implications far beyond individual species loss. The slow, deep breaths that conclude this journey through gorilla existence carry the peaceful rhythm of lives lived in harmony with natural cycles that have sustained life on Earth for billions of years. This ancient breathing pattern connects all living creatures to the fundamental processes that make existence possible, reminding us of our shared dependence on healthy ecosystems and stable climate systems. The forest heartbeat that gradually fades into silence as this contemplation ends represents not an ending, but a transition from observation to action, from understanding to advocacy, from passive appreciation to active protection of the remarkable creatures who have shared their intimate lives with those willing to listen carefully to their stories. The silence that follows carries within it the weight of responsibility and the possibility of hope, the knowledge that understanding can lead to protection, and the faith that human intelligence and compassion can prove sufficient to ensure that future dawns will continue to illuminate forest clearings where silverback gorillas sit in quiet majesty, protecting their families and preserving the ancient wisdom of lives lived in balance with the natural world that sustains all existence on this remarkable planet we share. Life as a gorilla, complete narration script. Dawn in the mist, awakening on the nest. The first sensation is cold, not the bitter cold of winter mountains, but the gentle, persistent chill of tropical morning mist settling on your fur like tiny pearls of liquid glass. Your eyes flutter open in the grey pre-dawn light, and for a moment, you're suspended between sleep and wakefulness, cradled 5 meters above the forest floor in a bed you built with your own massive hands. Your nest sways ever so slightly in the morning breeze. Yesterday evening, you carefully selected these branches, testing their strength with gentle bounces before weaving them into a circular platform. The supple shoots you bent and twisted have held through the night, creating a mattress more comfortable than anything humans might imagine. Each twig was chosen deliberately strong enough to support your 180 kilograms, flexible enough to bend without breaking, positioned to drain away any overnight rain. As consciousness fully returns, your senses flood with information. The earthy richness of decomposing leaves rises from the forest floor below, mixed with the green sweetness of growing plants and the mineral smell of morning dew. Somewhere in the canopy above, a hornbill releases its distinctive cala sound, like a wooden bell, echoing through the mist. Your stomach rumbles softly, reminding you that the body of a silverback gorilla requires nearly 20 kilograms of food each day. But first, safety. This is the ancient protocol embedded in every fiber of your being. Before you think of food, before you stretch your powerful limbs, before you even fully emerge from sleep's embrace, you must assess the world around you. Your ears rotate slightly, picking up the subtle sounds of the forest awakening. No drumming echoes through the trees. Good. That means no rival males are announcing their presence nearby. No leopard coughs disturb the morning peace, and no elephant trumpets suggest the massive grey giants are moving through your territory. You lift your great head and scan the canopy around you. The other members of your troop are beginning to stir in their own nests, scattered through the trees like oversized birds. There's old Mama Kessie, the matriarch whose wisdom has guided your family group for decades. She's already awake, her intelligent eyes surveying the forest with the same cautious assessment you're performing. The younger females are still drowsy, their babies clinging to their chests like dark, furry blankets. Your own nest must be dismantled before you leave. This isn't mere tidiness, it's survival strategy passed down through countless generations. A used nest advertises your presence to any who might track you. Poachers, rival gorillas, or predators could read the story of your night's rest in the bent branches and scattered leaves. So you begin the methodical process of unweaving what you so carefully created, pulling apart the twigs and scattering them to look like natural forest debris. The mist clings to everything this morning, transforming the familiar forest into something ethereal and dreamlike. Water droplets collect on every surface, on the broad leaves that arch overhead, on the moss-covered bark of ancient trees, on your own dark fur where it catches the growing light like tiny diamonds. You run one massive hand through the hair on your arm, feeling the moisture bead and roll away. As you work to dismantle your nest, your mind processes the sounds and scents carried on the morning air. The forest is waking up in layers. First came the insects, the eternal buzz and chirp of countless tiny lives. Then the birds began their dawn chorus, each species adding its voice to the growing symphony. Now the mammals are stirring. You hear the rustle of small creatures in the undergrowth, the distant crash of something larger moving through the canopy. Your family is your responsibility. As the dominant silverback, their safety depends on your vigilance, your strength, your ability to read the forest's moods and respond accordingly. This is why you wake with such careful attention to your surroundings, why every morning begins with this same ritual of assessment and preparation. The light is growing stronger now, filtering through the mist in soft golden shafts. The forest is revealing itself gradually, like a photograph developing in slow motion. The massive buttress roots of the great trees emerge from the grey like the foundations of ancient cathedrals. Vines thick as your arms spiral upward toward the distant canopy, creating highways for the smaller primates who share your world. You complete the dismantling of your nest and stretch. feeling the pleasant burn of muscles awakening after a night's rest. Your arms span nearly 3 meters when fully extended, and the simple act of stretching sends a message through the force. There is strength. Here is presence. Here is a protector awakening to guard his family. The last wisps of mist are beginning to lift, burned away by the growing warmth of the sun. Soon it will be time to descend, to begin the day's endless search for food, to guide your family through another day in the forest that has been home to your kind for millions of years. But for now, in these last moments of dawn quiet, you simply exist, a magnificent creature perfectly adapted to this green world, carrying within your powerful frame the accumulated wisdom of countless generations who faced each new day with the same careful balance of caution and curiosity. Morning feast, foraging for succulent shoots. The descent from your sleeping tree is a careful ballet of controlled falling. Your knuckles make first contact with each branch, testing its strength before committing your full weight. This is how gorillas navigate their vertical world, not with the acrobatic swinging of chimpanzees, but with the measured, deliberate movements of creatures who understand that gravity is both friend and enemy. The forest floor welcomes you with its soft carpet of decomposing leaves, countless layers of fallen vegetation that create a spongy foundation beneath your feet. Here in the understory, the light is filtered and green, creating a cathedral-like atmosphere among the massive tree trunks. This is your dining room, your pantry, your world of endless variety, where breakfast awaits in 1,000 different forms. Your first target stands before you, a cluster of young bamboo shoots, pale green and tender, pushing up through the forest floor like nature's own asparagus. These shoots are pure gold to a gorilla. They're packed with the fiber your digestive system craves, sweet enough to satisfy your morning hunger, and so tender they require minimal chewing from your impressive molars. You grasp the first shoot with surprising delicacy for such massive hands. Your fingers, thick as a human's wrist, can manipulate these plants with the precision of a surgeon. You strip away the tough outer layers with practiced efficiency, revealing the succulent white interior. The taste is clean and slightly sweet, with a texture that yields satisfyingly under your teeth. The crunch echoes softly through the forest as you work your way through the bamboo grove. But bamboo alone won't sustain you. Your body needs variety, and the forest provides it in abundance. You move deeper into the undergrowth, following paths worn by generations of your family, seeking the diverse menu that will fuel your massive frame through another day. There is a patch of wild thistles, their leaves broad and green, despite the spiky stems that would deter most other creatures. Your leathery palms and thick skin make short work of the thorns as you grasp the stems and strip away the celery-scented leaves. These plants offer different nutrients than the bamboo, a complexity of vitamins and minerals that your body instinctively craves. The slight bitterness of the thistle leaves creates a pleasant contrast to the bamboo's sweetness. Your nose leads you to another treasure, wild ginger, its thick rhizomes hidden beneath the soil like buried treasure. You dig carefully with your powerful fingers, feeling through the earth until you locate the knobby roots. When you crack one open, the sharp, spicy scent fills your nostrils and makes your mouth water. Wild ginger is more than food, it's medicine, helping to settle your stomach and fight off the parasites that are a constant concern in the humid forest environment. As you forage, you're performing calculations that would challenge a nutritionist. Your body needs roughly 20 kilograms of plant matter each day, but not just any plant matter. You need the right balance of proteins, fibers, sugars, and trace minerals. The bamboo provides bulk and fiber. The thistle leaves offer vitamins and that bitter complexity that aids digestion. The ginger root supplies antimicrobial compounds and aids nutrient absorption. But plants alone aren't enough. Despite what many humans believe, gorillas aren't purely vegetarian. You need protein, and the forest provides it in small, crawling packages. You pause beside a rotting log and carefully peel away a section of bark. Underneath, a colony of white grubs writhes in the exposed wood. These larvae are packed with protein and fat, exactly what your growing muscles require. You pick up the grubs one by one, examining each carefully before popping it into your mouth. The texture is soft and slightly nutty, nothing like the plant matter that makes up most of your diet. Some humans might find this revolting, but to you it's simply another item on nature's menu, as natural as picking berries or stripping leaves. The seasonal nature of your diet is something you understand instinctively. Right now, in the early dry season, certain plants are at their peak. The bamboo shoots are young and tender because the rains have recently ended. In a few months, during the height of the dry season, you'll need to seek different foods, perhaps the protein-rich caterpillars that emerge with certain moon cycles, or the fruits that ripen according to their own mysterious schedules. Your digestive system is a marvel of evolutionary engineering. Your stomach is large enough to process huge quantities of fibrous plant matter, while beneficial bacteria in your gut help break down cellulose that would be indigestible to humans. You can extract nutrients from plants that would pass right through other animals unchanged. As you continue foraging, other members of your family join the morning feast. Young gorillas watch your choices carefully, learning which plants to select and which to avoid. This knowledge isn't instinctive, it's cultural, passed down through generations of careful observation and imitation. A young gorilla who doesn't learn proper foraging techniques won't survive long in the wild. The forest around you is alive with the sounds of morning feeding. Birds call from the canopy above, insects buzz among the flowers, and the gentle sounds of your family foraging create a peaceful soundtrack to the start of another day. Your massive hands move with surprising grace among the delicate plants, selecting, stripping, tasting, always seeking the perfect balance of nutrients that will fuel your powerful body through the challenges ahead. Grooming circle bonds in the troop. The morning feeding frenzy gradually gives way to a more leisurely pace as the sun climbs higher through the forest canopy. Shafts of golden light penetrate the green cathedral around you, creating pools of dappled warmth that beckon irresistibly. This is the time for one of the most important activities in gorilla society, the grooming circle that binds your family together through touch, attention, and quiet intimacy. You settle yourself in a particularly inviting patch of sunlight, your massive frame folding with surprising grace into a comfortable sitting position. The warm light feels good on your dark fur, and you close your eyes briefly, enjoying the simple pleasure of solar warmth after the cool mist of dawn. But this isn't merely relaxation. This is social hour, the time when the complex relationships within your troop are maintained and strengthened through the ancient ritual of mutual grooming. Within moments, the females begin to gather around you. First comes Kessie, the eldest female, her movements deliberate and confident. She's earned her place through decades of wisdom and maternal success, and her presence near you signals to the rest of the group that this is indeed time for peaceful social bonding. Behind her, the younger females approach with their characteristic mixture of eagerness and deference. Gentle hands begin working through your fur with an expertise born of thousands of grooming sessions. These aren't the clumsy pawings of amateur. Every female in your troop has been grooming since childhood, and their fingers know exactly how to part your thick hair, how to search methodically for the tiny parasites that are an inevitable part of forest life, how to remove debris without causing discomfort. The sensation is deeply pleasurable in a way that transcends simple physical comfort. Each gentle tug and careful inspection sends signals of social acceptance and care through your nervous system. This is how gorillas say, "You belong." How they reinforce the bonds that hold the family together through good times and bad. The rhythmic searching and cleaning is meditative, almost hypnotic, and you feel your breathing slow and deepen. Your groomers work with systematic thoroughness. They part your fur in sections, exposing the skin beneath to careful inspection. When they find a tick or other parasite, they remove it with practiced efficiency, sometimes eating it immediately for the protein it provides, sometimes simply flicking it away into the forest litter. Their attention isn't random. They focus on areas you can't reach yourself: the back of your head, your shoulders, the space between your shoulder blades where your massive arms can't quite extend. But grooming isn't just about parasite removal. It's a complex social language with subtle rules and hierarchies. Notice how the older females take the prime positions near your head and shoulders, while younger ones work on your arms and hands. There's an unspoken protocol here, a recognition of status that maintains peace within the group. The younger females don't challenge this order. They understand that their time for higher status will come with age and proven maternal success. The sounds of grooming are soft and intimacy, the gentle rustle of fur being parted, the quiet lip-smacking sounds that signal contentment, the soft grunts and murmurs that create a soundtrack of social harmony. These vocalizations aren't random. They're part of an emotional conversation that reinforces the bonds being strengthened by physical touch. Occasionally, the peaceful atmosphere is interrupted by a brief challenge to etiquette. A younger female might push too aggressively for a better position, or forget to yield space when an elder approaches. When this happens, your response is swift but measured. A sharp look, a brief display of your impressive canine teeth, or a rumbling grunt is usually enough to restore order. These moments teach important lessons about social structure and respect without causing lasting harm to relationships. The grooming session isn't one-sided. While you're receiving attention, you're also giving it, though your role as the silverback means you mostly receive rather than give. When you do groom others, it's typically the highest-ranking females or their offspring, and your attention is a valuable commodity that reinforces their status within the group. Watch how the juveniles hover at the edges of this social gathering, learning through observation. They see which behaviors are rewarded and which are discouraged. They note the subtle signals that maintain harmonized, gentle movements, the patient waiting for turns, the respectful approach to higher-ranking individuals. This is their education in the complex social skills they'll need throughout their lives. The physical benefits of grooming are obvious: cleaner fur, fewer parasites, better overall health. But the psychological benefits are equally important. The oxytocin released during this gentle social contact reduces stress hormones, strengthens emotional bonds, and creates a sense of belonging that's crucial for mental health. Scientific studies have shown that primates who receive regular grooming have lower blood pressure, stronger immune systems, and longer lifespans than those who are socially isolated. As the grooming session continues, you become aware of the subtle power dynamics playing out around you. The female who gains the privilege of grooming your head is signaling her high status to the rest of the group. The one who waits patiently for her turn is demonstrating the social skills that will serve her well in future interactions. The young mother who brings her infant close to the grooming circle is introducing her baby to the social customs that will govern its entire life. The warm sunlight, the gentle hands working through your fur, the soft sounds of contentment from your family, all of these combine to create a sense of peace and security that's essential for your role as protector. A stressed, isolated silverback can't make the clear decisions that keep his family safe. But a silverback who is regularly groomed, who feels the strong social bonds of his troop, who experiences this daily reinforcement of belonging and acceptance, he can face any challenge the forest might present. Playful youngsters teaching through tumbles. The afternoon sun filters through the canopy in dancing beams as the youngest members of your troop begin their daily education in the art of being gorilla. Their energy is infectious, bubbling over in ways that would exhaust adults but seem to fuel them endlessly. These toddlers and juveniles, with their bright, curious eyes and boundless enthusiasm, represent the future of your family, and your role in their development is both teacher and referee in the complex game of growing up wild. Three young gorillas are currently engaged in what looks like pure chaos, but is actually sophisticated learning disguised as play. They tumble and wrestle with the kind of abandon that only children can manage, their smaller bodies bouncing off each other and rolling across the forest floor in a tangle of dark fur and limbs. To an untrained observer, this might look like simple roughhousing, but you recognize the deeper patterns at work. The youngest, barely 2 years old, practices the essential skill of balance by walking along a fallen log with arms outstretched. Each wobbling step is a lesson in coordination that will serve him well when he needs to navigate the complex three-dimensional highways of the forest canopy. When he falls, which he does frequently, he bounces back up with the resilience that characterizes young gorillas, ready to try again immediately. His slightly older sister has discovered the joy of leaf play, a behavior that's uniquely gorilla. She plucks leaves methodically and places them in her mouth, not to eat them but to practice the precise motor skills she'll need for a lifetime of food processing. She chews thoughtfully, then spits the leaves out in soggy fragments, only to immediately select new ones to repeat the process. This isn't mindless activity. It's the development of the fine motor control that will allow her to efficiently strip the edible portions from tough stems and remove inedible parts from her food. The oldest of the three, a confident 4-year-old male, has appointed himself the leader of their games. He initiates wrestling matches with exaggerated displays that mimic adult behaviors, beating his small chest with fists that produce more of a pat than a thunderous boom, making faces that are intended to be intimidating, but mostly succeed in being endearing. These displays aren't just play acting, they're the early stages of learning the complex social signaling that will govern his entire adult life. Your role in this educational chaos is subtle but crucial. You remain nearby, a massive presence that provides security and occasional guidance. When the play becomes too rough, when someone gets genuinely hurt rather than just surprised, your intervention is swift but gentle. A low grunt of disapproval, a careful repositioning of your body to separate overly enthusiastic participants, or simply a meaningful look is usually enough to moderate their behavior without crushing their spirits. But you're not just preventing problems, you're actively teaching. When one of the youngsters discovers an interesting stick and begins manipulating it, you watch approvingly. Tool use isn't instinctive in gorillas, it's learned behavior, and your attention to their experimentation encourages them to explore the possibilities. The stick might become a probe for investigating interesting holes, a lever for prying apart stubborn plant stems, or simply a toy for imaginative play. Each use develops cognitive skills and manual dexterity. The energy expenditure of this constant play is enormous. Young gorillas can burn calories at a rate that would exhaust adult humans, but the learning payoff justifies every joule. Their brains are forming crucial neural pathways that will serve them throughout their lives. The physical play develops strength, coordination, and body awareness. The social play teaches them to read emotional cues, understand hierarchy, and navigate complex relationships. Watch how they learn through imitation. When you pause to examine an interesting plant, all three youngsters immediately crowd around to see what's caught your attention. They don't just observe, they mirror your actions, touching the same leaves, smelling the same stems, even mimicking your facial expressions as you evaluate whether something is edible. This copying behavior is how cultural knowledge passes from generation to generation in gorilla society. The learning isn't always gentle. When the young male becomes too aggressive in his play, pushing his companions beyond their comfort zones, your correction is firm enough to make an impression. A sharp bark of disapproval sends him scrambling to a respectful distance, where he sits and contemplates his behavior with the wounded dignity that only a chastised child can manage. But the lesson is learned. There are boundaries to acceptable behavior, and crossing them has consequences. Vines become swings under their imaginative transformation, offering lessons in physics and biology simultaneously. They learn to judge which vines can support their weight, how to grip effectively, and how to use momentum to travel efficiently through their three-dimensional world. When a vine breaks us, they occasionally do the resulting tumble teaches valuable lessons about consequences and the importance of testing new pathways carefully. The social dynamics of their play are complex and constantly shifting. Alliances form and dissolve with the fluid speed of childhood friendships. One moment, two of them might team up against the third in a wrestling match. The next, the partnerships have completely realigned. They're learning to navigate the shifting social currents that characterize adult gorilla society, developing the flexibility and emotional intelligence they'll need to maintain relationships throughout their lives. Their play often incorporates elements of the adult behaviors they observe daily. They practice the chest-beating displays they see you perform, though their small size makes the sound more like gentle drumming than thunderous announcement. They experiment with the vocalizations they hear around them, testing different grunts and hoots to see what responses they produce from adults and peers. As afternoon shadows begin to lengthen, the intensity of their play gradually decreases. Energy levels that seemed infinite begin to show signs of depletion. The youngest starts to seek comfort from his mother, while the others settle into quieter activities examining interesting insects, practicing more precise manipulation of small objects, or simply resting in comfortable positions while watching the adult activities around them. This daily cycle of intense play, followed by gradual winding down, serves important developmental purposes. It teaches them to regulate their own energy, to recognize their limits, and to transition smoothly between high activity and rest periods. These are skills they'll use throughout their lives as they balance the demands of foraging, socializing, and staying alert for dangers. Silverbacks watch, maintaining order. The responsibility of leadership weighs on your massive shoulders like an invisible cloak that never comes off. As the dominant silverback, every decision your family makes, where to sleep, what to eat, when to move, how to respond to threats, ultimately falls under your protection and guidance. This isn't a role you chose. It's one you earned through years of physical development, social learning, and the gradual recognition by your troop that you possess the strength, wisdom, and temperament necessary to keep them safe in an unforgiving world. Your patrol of the clearing's perimeter is a ritual performed with the precision of a military guard. Each step is deliberate, each pause calculated to maximize your observation of the surrounding forest. Your eyes scan constantly up into the canopy where leopards might lurk, across the forest floor where snares might hide, and especially toward the invisible boundaries of your territory, where rival males might be probing for weakness. The acoustics of your chest-beat display are a marvel of natural engineering that scientists are still working to fully understand. When you rear up on your hind legs and begin the rhythmic pounding of your cupped hands against your chest, you're not simply making noise. You're broadcasting a complex message that carries for kilometers through the dense forest. The hollow boom produced by your barrel chest serves as both identification and intimidation, announcing to any who might be listening that this territory is occupied by a mature, powerful male in his prime. The sound waves of your display travel through the forest in patterns that would fascinate an acoustics engineer. The low-frequency components carry the farthest, penetrating through vegetation that would muffle higher-pitched sounds. Other gorillas can distinguish individual voices in these displays, recognizing family members and identifying strangers with the same precision humans use to recognize voices on the telephone. Your particular rhythm and tone are as unique as a fingerprint, developed over years of practice and refined through countless interactions. But chest beating is just one tool in your communication arsenal. The open-mouth belches that punctuate your vocalizations might sound crude to human ears, but they carry nuanced information about your emotional state and intentions. A soft belch, while foraging, signals contentment and safety to your family. A sharp, aggressive belch warns potential challengers that you're alert and ready to defend your position. The volume, duration, and tonal quality of these sounds create a vocabulary of dominance and reassurance. Ground slapping adds another dimension to your threat displays. When you bring your massive hands down hard against the earth, the impact sends vibrations through the ground that can be felt by other gorillas dozens of meters away. This percussion section of your territorial orchestra serves both to emphasize your physical power and to demonstrate your willingness to escalate a confrontation if necessary. The thuds echo through the forest like distant thunder, a reminder that raw power underlies all the complex social negotiations of guerrilla society. Your responsibilities extend far beyond simple intimidation of rivals. Within your own family group, you serve as the ultimate arbiter of disputes. When two females disagree over access to a particularly desirable feeding spot, their initial squabbling might seem minor, but you watch carefully for signs that the conflict might escalate beyond normal social friction. A meaningful look from you is often enough to settle the matter. Your mere attention, reminding the disputants that harmony within the group takes precedence over individual desires. The mating rights that come with your dominant position aren't simply biological privileges. They're part of a complex system that ensures genetic diversity and family stability. Female gorillas don't mate randomly. They compete for access to the most successful males, understanding instinctively that their offspring's survival chances improve dramatically when fathered by a strong, established silverback. Your role in these intimate interactions requires a delicate balance of assertion and sensitivity, responding to female choice while maintaining your position as the group's primary breeding male. Route decisions might seem straightforward, but they involve calculations that would challenge a logistics expert. You must balance the nutritional needs of your family against the seasonal availability of different foods. You must consider the physical capabilities of the youngest and oldest members when choosing travel paths. You must factor in weather patterns, the movements of other gorilla groups, and the ever-present threat of human encroachment when deciding where to lead your family next. The mental map you carry in your head encompasses dozens of square kilometers of forest terrain. You know where the best feeding trees fruit at different times of year, where water sources remain reliable during dry seasons, and where the safest sleeping sites offer protection from both weather and predators. This knowledge isn't acquired overnight. It's accumulated through years of careful observation and experience, creating a living database of survival information that your family depends upon completely. Predator assessment requires constant vigilance and split-second decision-making. The forest contains threats that could kill or seriously injure members of your family, and your ability to recognize and respond to these dangers often means the difference between safety and tragedy. Leopards are perhaps the most dangerous, capable of taking young gorillas and even challenging adults under the right circumstances. Your response to leopard threats must be immediate and overwhelming. There's no room for hesitation when facing Africa's most efficient predator. But not all threats require aggressive responses. Sometimes discretion is the better part of valor, and your judgment about when to fight and when to retreat can save your family from unnecessary risks. A wise silverback knows that avoiding confrontation often requires more skill than winning it, and your reputation for good judgment serves as protection in itself for other males. Think twice before challenging a silverback, known for making smart tactical decisions. The psychological weight of leadership is perhaps the heaviest burden you carry. Every member of your family looks to you for guidance in moments of uncertainty, for protection in times of danger, and for the kind of steady presence that allows them to go about their daily lives without constant fear. This trust is both humbling and empowering, driving you to maintain the physical condition and mental alertness that your role demands. Echoes of the forest drumming, vocal codes. The massive buttress root before you rises from the forest floor like a natural amphitheater, its hollow chambers perfectly designed for the percussion performance you're about to deliver. This ancient tree, perhaps centuries old, has become your instrumental living drum. that will carry your message across kilometers of dense forest with a clarity and power that no human technology could match in this environment. You approach the buttress route with the measured dignity of a master musician preparing for an important performance. Your hands explore the surface, testing different areas with gentle taps to find the spots that resonate most perfectly. Here, where the root curves outward from the tree trunk, the wood is thick enough to provide deep bass tones. There, where it flares into thin flanges, higher-pitched overtones can be coaxed from the living drum with precise strikes. The drumming sequence you're about to perform isn't random percussion. It's a sophisticated communication system that carries as much specific information as human speech. The rhythm you choose, the pattern of pauses between strikes, the gradual increase or decrease in volume, all combine to create a message that other gorillas can decode with remarkable precision. You're announcing your presence, your location, your family group's size and health, and your current emotional state, all through the ancient language of rhythm and resonance. Your first strikes are measured and deliberate, producing deep booms that seem to shake the very air around you. The sound waves radiate outward through the forest, penetrating thick vegetation that would muffle most other sounds. These low-frequency components of your drumming can travel 2 kilometers or more through the dense tropical forest, reaching the ears of other gorilla families who might be foraging far from your current location. But drumming is only part of your vocal repertoire. The hoots that accompany your percussion add layers of meaning that transform simple rhythm into complex communication. These aren't the random calls of an excited animal. They're precisely modulated vocalizations that carry emotional and social information with surprising subtlety. A rising hoot sequence signals excitement or discovery of particularly good food sources. A falling pattern might indicate mild distress or a call for family members to gather closer. The volume and duration of individual hoots can indicate everything from your confidence level to your assessment of potential threats in the area. The acoustic properties of your forest home play a crucial role in long-distance communication. The dense canopy above creates a natural sound channel that guides your calls along specific paths through the three-dimensional maze of vegetation. Sound waves that might dissipate quickly in open savanna can travel remarkable distances through forest corridors, bouncing off tree trunks and reflecting from the canopy ceiling to reach recipients far beyond the range of visual contact. Other members of your family group add their voices to your acoustic announcement, creating a chorus that provides additional information about your group's composition and well-being. The higher-pitched calls of females and juveniles blend with your deeper vocalizations to paint an audio portrait that other gorillas can interpret with remarkable accuracy. Experienced listeners can determine not just how many individuals are in your group, but roughly what ages and sexes are represented, and even assess the general health and stress levels of your family. Warning codes represent some of the most critical elements of your vocal vocabulary. The harsh barking sound you produce when leopard scent reaches your nostrils carries urgency that brings immediate attention from every member of your family. This isn't a sound any gorilla ignores. It triggers immediate defensive responses that have been honed by millions of years of evolution. The specific pattern of these alarm calls can even indicate the type and proximity of the threat, allowing your family to respond appropriately, whether they need to climb higher, group together defensively, or prepare for rapid retreat. Location pins are perhaps the most sophisticated aspect of your vocal communication system. When family members become separated during foraging, the calls you exchange aren't just general "here I am." Signals their precise acoustic coordinates that allow scattered individuals to navigate back to the group through dense vegetation, where visual contact is impossible. The direction from which calls arrive, combined with subtle acoustic cues that indicate distance, create an audio GPS system that rivals human technology in its precision and reliability. The cultural aspects of your drumming traditions connect you to gorilla communities across time and space. Just as human musical traditions vary between cultures, different gorilla populations have developed slightly different drumming styles and rhythmic preferences. Young gorillas learn these patterns through careful observation and practice, gradually developing their own personal variations while maintaining the core elements that allow clear communication with family and neighbors. Your drumming sessions often inspire responses from other silverbacks in the area, creating conversation networks that span vast distances. When you complete your rhythmic announcement, you pause to listen for replies. Within minutes, the forest may echo with answering drums from multiple directions as other family groups acknowledge your message and add their own information to the acoustic landscape. These long-distance conversations help maintain the social fabric of the broader gorilla community, allowing separate groups to coordinate their movements and avoid conflicts over resources. The parallels between your forest percussion and human musical traditions are striking and probably not coincidental. Humans and gorillas share common ancestors who likely used similar acoustic communication systems, and the fundamental appeal of rhythm and melody may reflect deep evolutionary connections. Just as human cultures have developed complex musical traditions that serve social bonding and communication functions, your drumming serves to strengthen family bonds while maintaining contact with the wider gorilla community. The physical act of drumming also serves important social functions within your own family group. When you perform these acoustic displays, you're demonstrating your strength, your confidence, and your continued ability to serve as the family's protector and leader. The young males in your group watch these performances carefully, learning not just the technical aspects of percussion, but also the bearing and confidence that must accompany effective leadership communication. Midday lull beating the heat in bamboo shade. The tropical sun has reached its zenith, transforming the forest into a living oven where even the slightest exertion feels overwhelming. Your massive body, so perfectly adapted for strength and presence, becomes a liability in the intense heat of midday. Unlike smaller mammals who can dissipate heat quickly, your 180 kilograms of muscle and bone absorb solar energy like a dark furnace, requiring sophisticated behavioral adaptations to prevent dangerous overheating. You seek refuge in the dense bamboo grove where countless vertical stems create a natural cooling chamber. The closely spaced bamboo creates multiple layers of shade while allowing air to circulate freely between the stalks. This microclimate can be several degrees cooler than the surrounding forest, providing the thermal relief your body desperately needs. Your family follows your lead, understanding intuitively that midday rest isn't laziness, it's survival strategy. Your breathing becomes deliberately slow and deep as your body shifts into rest mode. Unlike humans, who rely heavily on sweating for temperature regulation, gorillas have relatively sparse sweat glands. Most of your cooling must come from behavioral adaptations rather than physiological ones. You position yourself carefully to maximize air circulation around your body, sprawling in a way that exposes as much skin surface as possible to whatever breeze might filter through the bamboo. The posture you adopt is both practical and dignified. You lean against a sturdy bamboo clump, your back supported, your powerful limbs arranged to promote heat dissipation. Your family members arrange themselves nearby in similar positions, creating a peaceful scene that mirrors the rest behavior of gorillas throughout Africa's forests. This isn't simply individual cooling, it's communal rest that strengthens social bonds while conserving energy. Your heart rate slows from its active pace to the steady rhythm of rest. This cardiovascular shift is crucial for managing your body temperature, as a slower heart rate reduces the metabolic heat production that comes with circulation. Your breathing becomes so regular and peaceful that it seems to sync with the gentle swaying of bamboo stems in the minimal breeze. The process of thermoregulation in your massive body involves more than simple cooling. You must balance heat loss with energy conservation, ensuring that your rest position doesn't compromise your ability to respond quickly to threats. Even in deep relaxation, part of your awareness remains alert to the sounds and scents around you. Your ears continue to monitor the forest for warning signals, while your nose processes the constant stream of information carried on air currents. One of the most fascinating aspects of this midday rest is the communal chewing that begins as your family settles into comfortable positions. Like cows chewing cud, gorillas engage in a secondary processing of their morning's feast. You work your powerful jaws methodically, grinding down the fibrous plant material that has been sitting in your stomach, extracting every possible nutrient from the tough cellulose that forms the bulk of your diet. This rumination process is both practical and meditative. The rhythmic chewing helps break down plant fibers that your digestive system couldn't fully process during the hurried consumption of morning foraging. But it also creates a peaceful, almost hypnotic atmosphere within your resting group. The soft sounds of multiple family members engaging in this quiet oral processing creates a soundtrack of contentment that reinforces the bonds between you. Your digestive system is working hard even during this apparent rest. The massive quantities of plant matter you consume each day require extensive processing to extract sufficient nutrition. Your enlarged stomach churns steadily, mixing plant material with digestive acids, while beneficial bacteria work to break down cellulose into usable sugars. This internal process generates its own heat, making your midday cooling behavior even more crucial for maintaining proper body temperature. The bamboo grove around you creates its own acoustic environment that enhances the restful atmosphere. The hollow stems act as natural wind chimes, producing soft musical tones when air moves through them. This gentle percussion is almost subliminal, creating a peaceful background that helps mask the sounds of your family's presence from potential threats or competitors who might be moving through the surrounding forest. Your eyes, though heavy with midday drowsiness, continue to process the dappled light patterns that filter through the bamboo canopy above. This isn't the deep sleep that will come later in your evening nest, but rather a state of relaxed alertness that allows rapid response if circumstances require it. Your brain processes the visual information more slowly during rest, but it doesn't shut down completely. The younger members of your family take advantage of this peaceful time to engage in quiet learning activities. They might examine interesting objects more closely than the hurried pace of morning foraging allowed, or practice fine motor skills with small twigs and leaves. Their play during rest periods is notably gentler and more focused than their explosive morning energy, demonstrating an innate understanding of appropriate behavior for different times of day. Temperature regulation extends beyond your own body to encompass your entire family's well-being. As the dominant silverback, you're responsible for choosing rest sites that provide adequate cooling for everyone. Pregnant females and nursing mothers are particularly vulnerable to heat stress, and your selection of the bamboo grove takes their needs into account. The youngest family members, with their smaller body mass, can overheat quickly despite their size advantage in terms of surface area to volume ratio. The ambient soundscape of your midday rest includes the distant calls of other forest inhabitants who are also adapting to the intense heat. Birds that were active in the cool of early morning have largely fallen silent, conserving energy until temperatures moderate later in the day. Insects buzz lazily rather than with the frantic energy they display during cooler periods. Even the forest itself seems to slow down, as if the entire ecosystem understands the wisdom of midday rest. Your breathing gradually deepens further as true relaxation takes hold. The stress hormones that maintain alertness during active periods diminish, allowing your body to focus energy on digestion, tissue repair, and the cellular maintenance that keeps your massive frame functioning optimally. This physiological shift toward rest and recovery is essential for maintaining the strength and health that your family depends upon. As the bamboo shade deepens around you and the forest settles into its own version of midday siesta, you embody the ancient wisdom of tropical creatures who understand that sometimes the most productive thing you can do is absolutely nothing at all. This rest isn't weakness. It's intelligent adaptation to an environment where rushing through the heat of midday could prove fatal. Crossing ravines, navigating perilous terrain. The morning's peaceful foraging comes to an abrupt end when you encounter the deep ravine that cuts across your intended path, like a wound in the forest floor. 20 meters below, a small stream trickles between moss-covered rocks, while the vertical walls of the gorge rise on either side like green cathedrals draped in vines and ferns. This natural barrier has channeled the movements of your family for generations, and crossing it safely requires all the navigational wisdom accumulated through years of careful observation and experience. Your eyes scan the ravine systematically, reading the landscape with the expertise of a master engineer. Not all crossing points are equal, and choosing the wrong route could result in injury or death for members of your family. The massive fallen log that currently spans the narrowest part of the gorge has served as a bridge for months, but you must evaluate its continued structural integrity before committing your family's safety to its moss-covered surface. You approach the log crossing with deliberate caution, your massive hands testing its stability with gentle pressure before adding your full weight. The ancient hardwood groans softly under your touch, but holds firm. This tree, probably brought down by storms months ago, has wedged itself securely between both sides of the ravine, creating a natural bridge that forest animals have used as a highway. But what supports a small antelope might not necessarily hold a silverback gorilla and his family. Your spatial memory contains detailed information about dozens of similar crossings throughout your territory. You remember which logs have proven reliable over time, which vine networks can support gorilla weight, and which apparent bridges are deceptive traps that could give way at crucial moments. This accumulated knowledge represents one of the most valuable assets you can pass on to the younger members of your family, the ability to read terrain and make safe passage decisions. The crossing procedure you've developed follows strict protocols that minimize risk while maintaining family cohesion. You lead the way, testing each section of the log bridge with careful weight distribution before moving forward. Your massive frame serves as both pathfinder and early warning system if the bridge can support your 180 kilograms. The lighter family members who follow should be able to cross safely. Behind you, the family forms a careful single-file line that reflects both social hierarchy and practical safety considerations. The most experienced females cross next, their familiarity with similar challenges making them reliable leaders for the juveniles who will follow. The youngest family members wait until last, when the bridge's reliability has been thoroughly demonstrated and they can observe proper technique before attempting the crossing themselves. Your hands demonstrate the proper grip technique as you make your way across. Gorilla locomotion on uncertain surfaces relies heavily on the powerful grasp of fingers that can curl completely around even substantial branches. You don't simply walk across the log, you grip it with both hands and feet, distributing your weight across multiple contact points to reduce stress on any single part of the bridge structure. The instruction you provide to juveniles is primarily visual, since vocal communication during dangerous crossings could mask important audio cues about structural stress or approaching threats. Young gorillas learn by watching your precise movements, noting how you test each handhold before trusting it with your weight, how you maintain 3 points of contact whenever possible, and how you never rush, despite the natural anxiety that comes with exposure above a dangerous drop. Balance becomes crucial as you reach the center of the span where the log has the least support from either side. Here, your inner ear works overtime to maintain equilibrium, while your powerful core muscles make constant tiny adjustments to keep your center of gravity over the narrow bridge. The skill required for this type of navigation has been refined through millions of years of evolution, but each individual gorilla must still learn to apply these inherited abilities through practice and experience. Your knowledge of forest first aid comes into play as you consider the risks associated with potential falls. Gorillas have developed a sophisticated understanding of medicinal plants that can treat injuries ranging from cuts and bruises to more serious trauma. You know which leaves can be chewed and applied to wounds as antiseptics, which bark can be stripped and used to bind injured limbs, and which roots contain compounds that reduce inflammation and pain. The psychological aspect of dangerous crossings is just as important as the physical technique. Young gorillas often freeze with fear when confronted with heights and exposure, and your calm, confident approach serves as a behavioral model that helps them overcome natural anxiety. Your steady breathing and deliberate movements demonstrate that while the crossing demands respect and caution, it's not something to panic about. Weather conditions significantly affect the safety of ravine crossings. The moss that makes the logs slippery during wet conditions can provide crucial grip during dry periods. Morning dew creates temporary hazards that disappear as the sun rises. Your timing of family movements takes all these factors into account, often delaying crossings until conditions optimize the chances of safe passage. The environmental awareness required for successful navigation extends beyond the immediate crossing to encompass the entire landscape around the ravine. You monitor the forest above for dead branches that might fall. Scan the vegetation for signs of large animals that could create disturbance, and listen carefully for any sounds that might indicate changing weather conditions that could affect visibility or footing. Each successful crossing adds to the spatial database you carry in your memory, refining your understanding of this particular route and improving your ability to guide your family safely through future encounters with similar obstacles. This experiential learning is one of the key advantages that comes with age and leadership experience. The accumulated wisdom that allows split-second decisions about route selection and risk assessment. As your last family member safely reaches the far side of the ravine, you feel the satisfaction that comes with successful leadership under challenging conditions. The crossing that took 20 minutes of careful navigation has moved your family several hours closer to the seasonal feeding grounds they need to reach, while avoiding the longer, more exposed alternative routes that would have increased their vulnerability to other dangers. Forest flavors, seasonal fruits, insects. The morning air carries a scent that stops you in your tracks and sends an immediate signal of excitement through your massive frame. Somewhere ahead, beyond the curtain of green vegetation, a strangler fig tree has reached the peak of ripeness, releasing the sweet, yeasty aroma that means abundant food for any forest creature lucky enough to discover it. This is the kind of windfall that can feed your entire family for days, transforming a routine foraging expedition into a feast of almost unimaginable abundance. The strangler fig represents one of nature's most remarkable botanical achievements, and finding one in full fruit is like discovering a natural supermarket deep in the forest. These massive trees begin life as tiny seeds deposited by birds high in the forest canopy, then spend decades slowly growing downward and around their host tree until they eventually strangle and replace it entirely. The result is a hollow giant with a complex internal structure that can support massive crops of small, sweet fruits. As you push through the undergrowth toward the source of that tantalizing scent, your mouth begins to water in anticipation. Fig trees are among the most nutritionally dense foods available in the African forest, packed with the sugars and minerals that your massive body craves. But more than simple nutrition, figs represent pure pleasure. They're sweet enough to satisfy any primate's love of sugar, soft enough to eat without extensive processing, and abundant enough to allow the kind of relaxed, social feeding that strengthens family bonds. The tree itself is a marvel of natural architecture. Rising nearly 40 meters into the canopy, its hollow trunk could easily accommodate your entire family, while massive buttress roots spread across the forest floor like the walls of a natural amphitheater. The strangling figs that give the tree its name cluster thickly along every branch, creating purple-brown masses that seem to drip from the tree like natural chandeliers. Your approach to the fig tree triggers an explosion of activity, as dozens of other forest creatures abandon their feeding spots in deference to your family's superior size and strength. Monkeys chatter indignantly as they retreat to higher branches. Colorful birds take flight in clouds of beating wings, and smaller mammals scurry away into the undergrowth. This displacement might seem selfish, but it's simply the natural order of forest feeding hierarchies. The largest and strongest feed first, then smaller creatures clean up what remains. The figs themselves are perfectly ripe, yielding slightly under pressure and releasing bursts of sweet juice when bitten. Each fruit is small enough to fit easily in your mouth, but the tree produces them in such abundance that you can fill your stomach without moving more than a few meters. The sweetness is intense and satisfying, providing quick energy that your body immediately begins converting into usable glucose for muscles and brain function. But fruit alone cannot sustain a gorilla's complex nutritional needs. Your diet must include protein, and the forest provides it in forms that might surprise human observers. As you feast on figs, your attention is caught by the subtle sounds of insects moving within the tree's bark. Termites and other larvae represent protein sources that are both abundant and easily accessible to a creature with your manual dexterity and knowledge of forest ecology. You pry away a section of loose bark with one massive finger, revealing the white, grub-like termite larvae that have been feeding on the tree's living tissue. These insects are protein powerhouses, containing essential amino acids that plant matter alone cannot provide. The technique for harvesting them requires delicate touch. Too much pressure crushes them uselessly, while too little fails to extract them from their hiding places. Each larva you flick into your mouth provides a burst of rich, nutty flavor that contrasts perfectly with the sweet figs. This combination of fruit sugars and insect proteins creates a balanced meal that addresses multiple nutritional needs simultaneously. Your body recognizes the completeness of this feeding opportunity, and you take your time to thoroughly exploit the bounty the forest has provided. The social dynamics of feeding at the fig tree reflect the complex relationships within your family group. While you, as the dominant silverback, have first access to the choicest feeding spots, you don't monopolize the resource. Instead, you feed for a while, then move to a different section of the tree, allowing other family members access to the prime locations. This sharing behavior strengthens group cohesion and ensures that everyone benefits from the discovery. Your gut microbiome plays a crucial role in processing this diverse meal. The bacteria that live symbiotically in your digestive system have evolved specifically to handle the varied diet of forest gorillas. Some specialize in breaking down the complex carbohydrates in ripe fruits, while others focus on extracting amino acids from insect proteins. This internal ecosystem allows you to derive maximum nutrition from foods that would be largely indigestible to creatures without similar bacterial partnerships. The seasonal timing of fig ripening isn't random, it's part of a complex ecological calendar that governs the entire forest ecosystem. Different species of figs ripen at different times throughout the year, ensuring a relatively steady supply of high-quality food for the frugivorous animals that depend on them. Your knowledge of this fruiting schedule represents crucial survival information that you've accumulated through years of careful observation and memory. As you continue feeding, you notice the way different family members respond to the abundance. Young gorillas stuff themselves with an enthusiasm that borders on gluttony, their small stomachs quickly reaching capacity. Pregnant and nursing females eat with the focused intensity of creatures feeding not just themselves, but their developing offspring. Older family members pace themselves more carefully, understanding from experience that gorging can lead to digestive discomfort later. The feeding session at the fig tree becomes a social event that extends far beyond simple nutrition. Young gorillas play games with the sticky fig juices, painting their faces and hands in ways that would be considered messy by human standards, but represent perfectly normal exploration behavior for curious primates. Adults engage in mutual grooming that removes fig residue, while strengthening social bonds through gentle, attentive touch. The contrast between this feast and the careful, systematic foraging that characterizes most of your daily food gathering couldn't be more stark. While most meals require extensive travel, careful selection, and methodical processing, the fig tree provides abundance that allows relaxation and social interaction. These occasional windfalls represent high points in the gorilla calendar, events that are remembered and anticipated throughout the year. Threat in the canopy standoff with forest elephants. The ground trembles beneath your feet with a rhythm that sends immediate alarm signals through every nerve in your massive body. This isn't the random vibration of wind in trees or the scurrying of small forest creatures. This is the distinctive percussion of something truly enormous, moving through the forest with determined purpose. Your family freezes instantly, every member recognizing the unmistakable signature of approaching forest elephants, creatures whose size and power dwarf even your impressive physical presence. The warning signs have been building for several minutes, though only now do the pieces fall into a pattern clear enough to demand immediate attention. The sudden silence of birds in the canopy above, the absence of the usual small mammal chatter, and the subtle change in air pressure that comes when truly massive animals displace their environment. All these clues point to the approach of the forest's most formidable inhabitants. Through the green maze of undergrowth, you catch your first glimpse of grey hide moving between the trees. The forest elephant matriarch emerges into view like a living mountain, her massive bulk seeming impossible in the confines of the dense vegetation. These elephants are smaller than their savanna cousins, but still dwarf every other creature in the forest, and their reputation for unpredictable aggression makes them one of the few animals that even a silverback gorilla must approach with extreme caution. Your own response follows protocols developed through thousands of years of evolutionary interaction between your species. The chest-beating display you begin isn't born of aggression, but of communication, clear signal that this territory is occupied by a family group under the protection of a mature silverback. The hollow booming that emerges from your cupped hands against your barrel chest carries across the forest with an authority that demands attention from any creature within hearing range. But the elephant matriarch is unimpressed by your territorial announcement. Her trunk rises to test the air, gathering chemical information about your family's size, health, and emotional state with a sophistication that rivals your own olfactory abilities. The rumbling vocalization she produces in response is so low frequency that you feel it as much as hear it, a sound that seems to emerge from the earth itself rather than from any living creature. The standoff that develops is a masterpiece of evolutionary behavioral scripting. Neither species wants actual conflict. The energy expenditure and injury risk would be enormous for both sides, but neither can afford to appear weak or backing down from a resource competition. Instead, you engage in an escalating series of threat displays designed to communicate strength and determination without crossing the line into actual violence. Your family responds to your leadership cues with practiced precision. The females gather the youngest members and position themselves near escape routes while maintaining enough visibility to follow your signals. The juveniles, their eyes wide with a mixture of fear and fascination, watch intently as their primary protector faces down creatures that outweigh him by several tons. This is education in real-time survival, lessons that could mean the difference between life and death in future encounters. The elephant matriarch's own display escalates in response to your continued presence. She spreads her massive ears to appear even larger than her already imposing size, raises her trunk high above her head, and begins the characteristic head shaking that signals serious irritation. The message is clear. She considers this area to be under her family's control and expects you to yield to superior size and strength. Your response must be carefully calibrated. Too little display, and you risk appearing weak, potentially inviting a charge that could scatter or injure your family. Too much aggression, and you might provoke the very confrontation you're trying to avoid. Instead, you choose a middle path, increasing the intensity of your chest beating while adding the sharp barking vocalizations that signal serious intent without crossing into pure aggression. The sound of breaking branches adds another dimension to the escalating display as the elephant matriarch begins to demonstrate her destructive capabilities. She pushes over a small tree with casual ease, the cracking of wood and rustling of falling leaves, serving as an unmistakable demonstration of the damage she could inflict if the confrontation escalated to actual combat. This environmental manipulation is sophisticated psychological warfare designed to intimidate without requiring direct confrontation. Your own escalation includes the ground-slapping behavior that sends vibrations through the forest floor, creating percussion that complements your vocal and visual displays. You rear up on your hind legs to maximize your apparent size, though even at your most imposing you're dwarfed by the elephant family. But size isn't everything in these confrontations. Confidence, persistence, and the backing of a cohesive family group can sometimes overcome pure physical advantages. The critical moment comes when you must decide whether to continue escalating or begin the delicate process of de-escalation and strategic retreat. Your assessment takes into account multiple factors: the emotional state of the elephant matriarch, the proximity of her own calves, the availability of alternative routes for your family, and your judgment of whether this particular confrontation is likely to result in actual violence. Reading the elephant's body language requires expertise accumulated through a lifetime of forest encounters. The slight forward lean of her massive body suggests preparation for a charge, but the position of her trunk and the pattern of her vocalizations indicate that she's still in threat display mode rather than committed to attack. This gives you a window of opportunity for graceful withdrawal that preserves dignity while prioritizing safety. Your strategic retreat begins with subtle shifts in position that signal to your family that movement is imminent, while avoiding any sudden motions that might trigger an aggressive response from the elephants. You maintain eye contact with the matriarch while gradually angling your body toward the most promising escape route, demonstrating respect for her superior force, while making it clear that you're withdrawing voluntarily rather than fleeing in panic. The success of your de-escalation strategy becomes apparent as the elephant family settles into feeding behavior, their attention shifting from territorial defense to the abundant food resources that attracted them to this area in the first place. Your family's orderly withdrawal preserves everyone's safety while maintaining the social cohesion that's essential for survival in an environment where such encounters are inevitable parts of daily life. As you lead your family away from the elephant encounter, the lessons learned become part of the accumulated wisdom that makes you an effective leader. Each confrontation provides information about reading threats, managing family responses under pressure, and making the split-second decisions that can determine whether a tense situation escalates into deadly conflict or resolves through the kind of intelligent behavioral flexibility that has allowed both gorillas and elephants to coexist in Africa's forests for millions of years. Predator shadows listening for the leopard. The scent hits your nostrils like a cold blade of fear, cutting through the warm, humid air of the forest morning. It's faint, but unmistakable, the musky, predatory odor that every fiber of your being recognizes as leopard. This isn't the stale scent of an animal that passed through days ago, but something recent enough to send immediate alarm signals cascading through your nervous system. Your massive frame goes rigid with attention as you process this olfactory intelligence and begin the complex risk assessment that could determine your family's survival. Leopards represent perhaps the most serious threat your family faces in the forest environment. Unlike elephants, whose size makes them dangerous but predictable, or rival gorillas, whose motivations you understand completely, leopards are specialized predators whose behavior patterns center entirely around killing and eating other mammals. Their ability to hunt at night, climb trees with deadly efficiency, and strike with lightning speed makes them a constant source of anxiety for any gorilla family. Your response to the leopard scent is immediate and multifaceted. First comes the visual scan of your surroundings, your eyes systematically checking every possible hiding spot where a cat might conceal itself. Leopards are masters of camouflage, capable of remaining virtually invisible even at close range when they choose concealment over movement. That fallen log could hide a crouching predator. Those dense shadows beneath the strangler fig might conceal spotted fur, and every vine-draped branch overhead represents a potential launching point for an ambush attack. The historical memory carried in your genetic code includes countless encounters between your species and these apex predators. Gorillas have been dealing with leopard predation for millions of years, developing sophisticated anti-predator behaviors that represent some of the most effective defensive strategies in the animal kingdom. But this ancient knowledge comes with a cost. The constant vigilance required to detect and respond to leopard threats shapes every aspect of daily gorilla life. Your alarm bark cuts through the forest quiet like a rifle shot, instantly alerting every member of your family to the presence of mortal danger. This isn't the gentle vocalization used for routine communication or the territorial display employed against rival gorillas. This is the harsh, urgent sound that triggers immediate defensive responses from creatures whose survival depends on split-second reactions to predator threats. The defensive formation your family assumes follows patterns refined through countless generations of natural selection. Adults position themselves between the threat direction and the younger family members, creating a living wall of muscle and determination. The largest females take positions that allow them to support your defense while maintaining escape routes for juveniles. Everyone faces outward from a tight cluster, maximizing the number of eyes and ears monitoring for attack while presenting the most formidable possible defense against any assault. Your own position at the front of this defensive formation represents both strategic necessity and personal commitment. As the largest and most powerful member of your family, you're the only one capable of actually fighting a leopard with any hope of success. Your massive canine teeth, powerful arms, and sheer body mass give you weapons that might allow you to survive a direct confrontation with one of Africa's most efficient predators. The stout stick you select as an improvised weapon demonstrates the sophisticated tool use that distinguishes gorilla anti-predator behavior from simple physical defense. This branch, roughly the length of your arm and thick enough to deliver devastating impact, transforms your already formidable physical capabilities into something approaching lethal effectiveness. Your grip on the stick is practiced and confident. This isn't the first time you've prepared for leopard defense, and it won't be the last. The waiting becomes almost unbearable as minutes stretch into what feels like hours. Leopards are patient hunters, capable of remaining motionless for extended periods while they assess potential prey and plan their attacks. Your family maintains defensive formation while the psychological pressure builds, every small sound and movement in the surrounding forest potentially signaling the beginning of a life or death struggle. The vigilance rhythm that governs your daily movements reflects the constant balance between feeding requirements and security concerns. During leopard active periods, primarily dawn, dusk, and nighttime hours, your family's movements become more cautious and defensive. Feeding areas are chosen with escape routes in mind. Sleeping sites are selected for their defensibility, and the spacing between family members decreases to allow rapid mutual support in case of attack. Young gorillas learn anti-leopard behaviors through a combination of instinct and observation, their education beginning almost from birth. They watch how adults scan the environment, how defensive formations are established, and how improvised weapons are selected and wielded. This learning process is literally a matter of life and death. Juveniles who fail to master these skills quickly enough become vulnerable to predation that could eliminate them before they reach reproductive age. The psychological impact of leopard threats extends far beyond the immediate danger of any single encounter. Living under constant predation pressure creates stress responses that affect everything from feeding efficiency to social relationships within the family group. The energy expenditure required for maintaining anti-predator vigilance reduces the time and attention available for other important activities like foraging, grooming, and play. Your assessment of the current threat involves complex calculations about leopard behavior patterns, environmental conditions, and your family's vulnerability status. Leopards prefer to attack isolated individuals rather than cohesive groups, hunt most actively during low-light conditions, and typically avoid confrontations with adult silverbacks unless driven by extreme hunger or protective instincts for their own offspring. The gradual fading of the leopard scent on the morning breeze suggests that the immediate threat may be passing, but your family maintains defensive alertness for much longer. Leopards are capable of circling back to attack from unexpected directions, and premature relaxation of defensive measures has proven fatal for gorilla families throughout evolutionary history. Only when the scent trail becomes clearly stale and environmental indicators suggest the predator has moved on, do you allow your family to gradually resume normal activities. The relief that comes with successful predator avoidance is tempered by the knowledge that this encounter represents just one incident in an ongoing evolutionary arms race between your species and one of nature's most accomplished killers. Tomorrow will bring new scent trails, new moments of frozen terror, and new tests of the defensive strategies that have kept gorilla families alive in leopard territory for countless generations. Rainstorm respite, huddling beneath broad leaves. The first fat raindrops that penetrate the forest canopy above arrive like advance scouts for the deluge that will follow within minutes. These initial drops are enormous, having gathered size and momentum during their long fall from the towering thunderheads that have been building throughout the afternoon. When they strike the broad leaves around you, they produce hollow drumming sounds that herald the approach of one of the tropical forest's most dramatic daily spectacles, the afternoon thunderstorm, that will transform your world into a living waterfall. Your family recognizes the signs immediately and begins the organized migration toward natural shelter that has protected gorillas from tropical storms for countless generations. The massive philodendron leaves that drape themselves like living umbrellas throughout the forest understory represent some of the most effective rain protection available in this green world. These leaves, some nearly 2 meters across, have evolved specifically to shed the massive quantities of water that fall during tropical downpours. The sound of approaching rain begins as a distant whisper high in the canopy, then grows rapidly into a rushing roar as billions of water droplets begin their journey from cloud to forest floor. This acoustic warning gives you precious minutes to guide your family toward the best available shelter before the full force of the storm arrives. The shelter selection process requires careful evaluation of multiple factors: wind direction, drainage patterns, and the structural integrity of your chosen refuge. You settle beneath a cluster of giant philodendrons whose broad leaves overlap like tiles on a roof, creating a natural pavilion that channels water away from the protected space beneath. Your family arranges itself in the hierarchical pattern that governs most gorilla group activities, with the most vulnerable members, infants and pregnant females, occupying the driest positions, while others arrange themselves according to size and social status. The tropical downpour that follows is both magnificent and overwhelming. Water cascades from the canopy above in sheets and torrents, transforming the normally peaceful forest into a thunderous landscape, where conversation becomes impossible and visibility drops to just a few meters. The sound is so intense that it seems to come from inside your own body rather than from the external world, a percussion symphony that drowns out every other forest sound. But rather than cowering in misery, your family demonstrates the water-shedding behaviors that make tropical storms bearable rather than catastrophic. You angle your body to maximize the runoff from your dark fur, positioning yourself so that water streams away from your core rather than pooling in uncomfortable places. Your family members mirror these behaviors, creating a cluster of living drainage systems that manage the enormous quantities of water flowing around them. The younger members of your family, less concerned with staying completely dry, begin to engage in the playful rain drinking that turns the storm from ordeal into entertainment. They position themselves to catch water streaming from leaf edges, opening their mouths to gulps of clean rainwater that tastes infinitely fresher than the standing pools they normally drink from. Their pleasure in this natural water fountain is infectious, bringing smiles even to the more serious adult faces. Your own approach to the storm combines practical water management with an appreciation for the sensory richness of the experience. The smell of rain on forest earth creates an olfactory symphony that includes notes of ozone, decomposing vegetation, and the green scent of plants receiving life-giving moisture. This petrichortha distinctive smell of rain on earth triggers positive responses in your brain that seem to be hardwired into the nervous systems of creatures who evolved in environments where water means survival. The white noise quality of the rainfall creates an acoustic environment that's both masking and meditative. While the overwhelming sound makes it impossible to detect potential threats through hearing, it also provides a kind of auditory blanket that promotes relaxation and rest. Your breathing naturally slows and deepens in response to the rhythmic percussion of water on leaves, and you feel your heart rate decrease as the storm's hypnotic qualities take effect. The thermal effects of the tropical downpour provide welcome relief from the oppressive heat that had been building throughout the afternoon. The evaporation of rainwater from your fur creates a cooling effect that helps regulate your body temperature, while the general drop in ambient temperature that accompanies the storm provides systemic relief from heat stress. This natural air conditioning system allows your family to remain comfortable even during the most intense periods of rainfall. The duration of tropical storms follows predictable patterns that your family understands instinctively. These afternoon deluges typically last between 30 minutes and 2 hours, long enough to provide substantial water input to the forest ecosystem, but not so extended that they create serious survival challenges for forest inhabitants. Your patience during the storm reflects this understanding. This is an interruption to be endured rather than a crisis to be escaped. As the storm continues, you observe the fascinating ways that different family members cope with the enforced inactivity. Some engage in quiet grooming activities that help pass time while providing mutual comfort. Others practice the meditative rumination that helps extract maximum nutrition from morning feeding. The youngest members often doze, lulled to sleep by the rhythmic pounding of rain and the security of being surrounded by protective adults. The forest around you undergoes its own transformation during the storm. Streams that were barely visible trickles an hour ago become rushing torrents carrying debris from higher elevations. The air becomes thick with humidity and the sense of disturbed earth, blooming flowers responding to the moisture, and the rich complexity of a tropical ecosystem receiving the water it needs to maintain its incredible productivity. Your shelter beneath the philodendron leaves provides not just physical protection, but also psychological comfort. Being able to remain dry and comfortable during one of nature's most powerful displays reinforces your confidence in your ability to protect your family from whatever challenges the forest might present. This success in basic survival tasks strengthens the trust that your family places in your leadership and decision-making. The gradual diminishing of the storm's intensity provides as much sensory information as its arrival. The drumming on leaves becomes less intense, the visibility improves gradually, and the overwhelming white noise begins to separate into individual sounds dripping from countless leaf edges. The gurgle of temporary streams, and the first tentative calls of birds emerging from their own storm shelters. As the last heavy drops fall and the forest begins its transition back to normal activities, you feel the deep satisfaction that comes from successfully weathering one of nature's regular challenges. The storm that seemed so overwhelming an hour ago becomes just another manageable part of forest life, a reminder that with proper preparation and good judgment, even the most dramatic natural events can be endured with comfort and dignity. New mothers, nurturing the next generation. In the dappled sunlight of the forest clearing, one of the most profound dramas of gorilla life unfolds with quiet tenderness. Amara, a young female who gave birth just 3 months ago, cradles her infant against her chest with the careful attention that marks the difference between survival and tragedy in the wild. This tiny gorilla, weighing barely 2 kilograms, represents not just the future of your family group, but the continuation of genetic lines that stretch back millions of years through the evolutionary history of your species. The nursing cycles that govern Amara's daily routine follow rhythms as ancient as mammalian life itself. Every 2 to 3 hours, the infant's hunger signals trigger her body's automatic response, releasing the rich milk that will fuel explosive growth during these crucial early months. But gorilla nursing is more than simple nutrition. It's a complex dance of chemical communication, emotional bonding, and behavioral education that shapes every aspect of the infant's developing personality and survival skills. You watch this maternal interaction with the protective attention of a silverback who understands that every infant represents precious genetic investment. In the wild, infant mortality rates among gorillas can reach 50% in the first year of life, making successful nurturing one of the most critical skills a female can possess. Amara's gentle pats and soft vocalizations aren't just expressions of affection, they're essential stimulation that promotes healthy neural development in her baby's rapidly growing brain. The physical positioning Amara maintains while nursing demonstrates the sophisticated body awareness that experienced mothers develop through trial and success. She supports the infant's head with one massive hand while using the other to maintain her own balance and stability. This allows the baby to nurse efficiently while keeping both of them ready to move quickly if circumstances require immediate action. The alloparenting behaviors that characterize gorilla family life become most apparent during these nursing sessions. Kessie, the group's matriarch, positions herself nearby to provide additional protection and wisdom during these vulnerable moments. Her presence isn't coincidental experienced. Females actively support new mothers, offering their own bodies as windbreaks, sharing food resources, and providing the kind of emotional support that reduces stress hormones that could interfere with milk production. Even more remarkably, other females in the group will occasionally care for Amara's infant when she needs to forage or rest. This sharing of maternal responsibilities isn't simply altruism, it's intelligent resource management that ensures the survival of genetic material that benefits the entire family group. Sister gorillas often serve as auxiliary mothers, learning childcare skills while providing crucial backup support during emergencies. The infant's vocal development provides a fascinating window into the process of becoming gorilla. At 3 months, the baby's repertoire includes soft grunting sounds that indicate contentment, sharp barks that signal distress, and the beginning attempts at the complex vocalizations that will eventually allow full participation in family communication. Each sound represents a developmental milestone that Amara monitors with the intensity of a speech therapist evaluating human language acquisition. Grip strength testing occurs naturally throughout each day as the infant clings to its mother's fur during movement and feeding. This isn't random clinging, it's a sophisticated evaluation of the motor control that will eventually allow independent travel through the 3-dimensional maze of the forest canopy. Amara unconsciously adjusts her movements to provide appropriate challenges for her baby's developing muscles without overwhelming its current capabilities. The timing of infant development follows patterns that have been optimized through millions of years of natural selection. At 3 months, the baby's eyes are fully functional and capable of tracking movement and recognizing faces. Its digestive system can begin processing small amounts of pre-chewed plant matter that Amara provides, introducing the complex gut bacteria necessary for processing the fibrous vegetation that will eventually comprise most of its diet. Social learning begins almost immediately as the infant observes the complex interactions within your family group. It watches how different individuals relate to each other, how conflicts are resolved, and how resources are shared. This early exposure to social dynamics creates the foundation for the sophisticated behavioral skills that will determine its success in gorilla society throughout its life. The protective instincts that Amara displays become heightened to almost supernatural levels during these early months. Her ability to detect potential threats improves dramatically, and her response times to danger signals decrease to split-second precision. This maternal hypervigilance serves as an additional layer of security for the entire family group, as nursing mothers often serve as early warning systems for approaching predators or other threats. Temperature regulation becomes a shared responsibility between mother and infant during these vulnerable early months. Amara positions her body to shield her baby from excessive heat or cold, while the infant's small size allows it to take advantage of her thermal mass for warmth during cool forest mornings. This biological cooperation demonstrates the sophisticated physiological adaptations that have evolved to maximize infant survival rates. The nutritional demands of lactation require Amara to increase her own food intake substantially while maintaining the high-quality diet necessary for rich milk production. She focuses particularly on protein-rich insects and the youngest, most nutritious plant shoots. Other family members often share choice food items with nursing mothers, recognizing instinctively that supporting successful reproduction benefits everyone's genetic future. Play behaviors begin to emerge even at this early age, as the infant starts to manipulate its mother's fur, grab at interesting objects within reach, and practice the facial expressions that will become important communication tools. These activities aren't random entertainment. They're the beginning stages of the motor and social skill development that will continue throughout the juvenile years. The emotional bond between Amara and her infant extends far beyond simple biological necessity. The oxytocin released during nursing and grooming creates powerful psychological connections that will influence their relationship for years to come. Even after weaning, the special relationship between mothers and offspring continues to play important roles in social dynamics and mutual protection. Your role as the protective silverback takes on additional dimensions during these early months of infant development. You're not just guarding against external threats, you're also ensuring that the family environment remains stable and supportive enough for successful child rearing. This includes mediating disputes that might disrupt nursing, selecting safe travel routes that accommodate the slower pace of mothers with infants, and choosing feeding areas that provide the nutrition nursing mothers require. The success of this nurturing process will determine not just the survival of individual infants, but the long-term viability of your entire family group. Each successfully raised young gorilla represents genetic continuity, future reproductive potential, and additional strength for facing the challenges that forest life presents. The quiet tenderness you observe in this forest clearing carries the weight of species survival and the hopes of countless future generations. Teaching tools using sticks to fish for ants. The massive termite mound that rises from the forest floor like a natural skyscraper represents both challenge and opportunity for your family group. These architectural marvels, built by millions of tiny insects over years of dedicated construction, contain protein-rich treasures that could supplement your family's diet significantly if you can figure out how to access them efficiently. This is where the sophisticated tool use behaviors that distinguish gorillas from most other animals become essential survival skills. You approach the termite mound with the methodical attention of an engineer surveying a complex problem. The structure itself is a marvel of insect engineering, rising nearly 2 meters above the forest floor and extending deep underground through a network of tunnels and chambers that house millions of individual termites. The exterior surface is hardened clay that's been mixed with termite saliva to create a concrete-like material that protects the colony from both weather and predators. The selection of appropriate tools requires careful evaluation of available materials and understanding of the specific requirements for termite extraction. You scan the surrounding vegetation for twigs that meet precise criteria, straight enough to navigate the termite tunnels, flexible enough to bend without breaking, thin enough to fit through the openings, and long enough to reach deep into the mound where the fattest larvae reside. Your hands work with surprising delicacy as you strip the selected twig of its leaves and side branches, creating a probe that's perfectly adapted for its intended purpose. This isn't random tool modification, it's sophisticated engineering that demonstrates understanding of cause and effect relationships. Each leaf removed improves the stick's functionality, while careful attention to length and thickness maximizes its effectiveness for the specific task ahead. The technique for termite fishing requires patience and skill that takes years to master completely. You insert the prepared stick into one of the small openings that dot the termite mound's surface, pushing it carefully into the tunnel system until you feel the resistance that indicates you've reached an active chamber. The goal isn't to simply stab blindly into the mound, it's to locate areas where termites will grab onto your probe, allowing you to extract them like living fishing lures. The termite's defensive response to your intrusion works in your favor during this process. When worker termites detect the foreign object in their tunnels, they attack it with their mandibles, gripping the stick with sufficient force that careful withdrawal brings them to the surface where they can be collected. This behavior, evolved to protect the colony from natural threats, inadvertently makes them vulnerable to the intelligent tool use of gorillas. Your licking technique for collecting the termites demonstrates the precise motor control that makes this feeding strategy possible. As you slowly withdraw the stick from the termite mound, termites clinging to its surface must be quickly harvested before they can release their grip and return to the safety of their tunnels. The sweeping motion of your tongue along the stick's length captures multiple insects in a single fluid movement. The taste of fresh termites provides a burst of rich, nutty flavor that's completely different from the plant matter that comprises most of your diet. These insects are packed with protein, fat, and trace minerals that your massive body needs but can't easily obtain from vegetation alone. The amino acid profile of termite protein is particularly valuable, providing building blocks for muscle maintenance and growth that plant sources can't match. Cultural transmission of tool use techniques represents one of the most sophisticated aspects of gorilla behavior. Young family members crowd around during your termite fishing demonstration, watching intently as you select materials, modify tools, and execute the delicate extraction process. This isn't instinctive behavior, it's learned skill that must be passed down through generations of careful observation and practice. The youngest gorillas begin their tool use education by simply manipulating sticks and twigs without any clear purpose, developing the manual dexterity and understanding of material properties that will eventually allow them to create effective tools. They practice inserting sticks into holes in logs, trees, and other surfaces, gradually learning the relationship between tool characteristics and functional success. Older juveniles attempt to mimic your technique with varying degrees of success. Their early efforts often result in broken tools, lost termites, and frustrated vocalizations, but each attempt provides valuable learning opportunities. You occasionally offer gentle guidance, repositioning their hands or demonstrating proper technique, but mostly you allow them to learn through trial and error. The comparison between gorilla tool use and human technology reveals fascinating parallels in cognitive development. Like human children learning to use implements, young gorillas must understand abstract relationships between cause and effect, develop fine motor control, and learn to modify objects to serve specific purposes. The stick becomes an extension of their bodies, requiring the kind of spatial reasoning that underlies all sophisticated tool use. The efficiency gained through proper tool use can significantly impact your family's nutritional status. A skilled termite fisher can extract hundreds of insects in a relatively short period, providing protein equivalent to hours of plant foraging. This efficiency allows more time for other important activities like social bonding, territory patrol, and rest, improving overall quality of life for the entire family group. The seasonal timing of termite fishing connects to broader patterns in forest ecology and insect life cycles. Certain times of year provide optimal opportunities for this type of foraging, when termite colonies are most active and accessible. Your knowledge of these timing patterns represents another layer of cultural information that must be transmitted to younger generations for their future survival success. Different termite species require different techniques and tools, adding complexity to the learning process. Some species build harder mounds that require more robust tools, while others construct tunnels with different dimensions that demand specific probe characteristics. This variability ensures that mastery of termite fishing requires years of experience and continuous learning. The social aspects of tool use extend beyond simple technique transmission to include sharing of productive sites and cooperation during foraging. When you discover a particularly rich termite mound, other family members are welcome to try their own fishing attempts, creating collaborative foraging sessions that strengthen group bonds while providing nutrition for everyone. The cognitive demands of successful tool use represent some of the most sophisticated mental processes in the animal kingdom. Planning ahead to gather appropriate materials, modifying those materials for specific purposes, and executing complex behavioral sequences all require abstract thinking abilities that were once thought to be uniquely human. Your effortless mastery of these skills demonstrates the remarkable intelligence that has allowed gorillas to thrive in complex forest environments for millions of years. Territory patrol, branch-beating border march. The morning mist clings to the forest floor as you begin the territorial circuit that marks the boundaries of your family's home range. This isn't a casual stroll through familiar woodsits, a systematic patrol that serves multiple critical functions in maintaining your group's security and resource access. Every tree, every stream crossing, every ridge and valley within these boundaries represents territory that you must actively defend through regular demonstration of your presence and commitment to its protection. Your route follows ancient pathways worn smooth by generations of gorilla families who have claimed this forest section as their own. These trails aren't random routes through the vegetation, they're strategic corridors that connect critical resources while providing optimal observation points for detecting intruders or threats. The pathway system represents accumulated wisdom about efficient movement through complex terrain, knowledge that's been refined through countless generations of trial and territorial success. The branch-beating displays that punctuate your patrol serve as acoustic markers that announce your presence to any rivals who might be considering encroachment. When you select a suitable tree and begin the rhythmic pounding that creates thunderous percussion throughout the forest, you're engaging in behavior that's both communication and intimidation. The hollow booming carries for kilometers through the dense vegetation, serving as an unmistakable announcement that this territory remains under active protection. Each percussion session is carefully positioned to maximize acoustic coverage while taking advantage of natural amplification features in the landscape. Valleys and clearings can enhance the projection of your drumming, while dense vegetation might muffle the sound and reduce its effective range. Your understanding of forest acoustics allows you to choose beating locations that ensure maximum territorial coverage with optimal energy efficiency. The scent-marking behavior that accompanies your territorial patrol involves sophisticated chemical communication that operates on time frames much longer than vocal displays. When you rub your body against specific trees and rocks, you're depositing odor signatures that remain detectable for weeks after your passage. These scent posts serve as persistent territorial markers that continue announcing your claim even when you're not physically present in the area. Your scent glands produce complex chemical signatures that carry detailed information about your identity, health status, and recent activities. Other gorillas can read these chemical messages with remarkable precision, determining not just that a silverback has passed through the area, but specifically which silverback, how recently, and what his current physical condition might be. This olfactory communication system creates a persistent territorial boundary that supplements your periodic physical patrols. The landmarks that anchor your territorial knowledge create a mental map of extraordinary detail and accuracy. That distinctive strangler fig with the hollow trunk serves as a major navigation reference point, while the mineral lick near the seasonal stream provides both a boundary marker and a critical resource that must be defended from competitor access. Your spatial memory encompasses dozens of such landmarks, creating a cognitive map that guides both daily movements and long-term territorial strategy. The encounters with distant kin bands that occasionally occur during border patrols require delicate diplomatic handling that balances territorial assertion with family relationship maintenance. When you detect the presence of other guerrilla groups near your boundaries, your response must consider not just immediate territorial concerns, but also long-term social relationships that might prove beneficial during future emergencies or resource shortages. Tension diffusion rituals have evolved to handle these inevitable border encounters without forcing every interaction into violent confrontation. The stylized displays and vocalizations that occur when two silverbacks meet at territorial boundaries serve similar functions to diplomatic protocols in human societies. They allow both parties to demonstrate strength and commitment while providing face-saving alternatives to potentially lethal combat. The seasonal variations in territorial pressure require constant adjustment of your patrol intensity and defensive strategies. During abundant food periods, territorial disputes tend to be less frequent and less intense, as multiple families can coexist with minimal resource competition. But during lean seasons, when high-quality food becomes scarce, territorial boundaries become more critical and require more aggressive defense to maintain family access to survival resources. Your knowledge of alternative routes and backup territories provides crucial flexibility during periods of extreme territorial pressure. If neighboring silverbacks become too aggressive or environmental conditions make certain areas temporarily unusable, you must be prepared to guide your family to secondary areas that can provide adequate resources until normal territorial access can be restored. The Vine Bridge that spans the small gorge represents both a critical transportation link and a potential vulnerability in your territorial defense. This natural crossing point must be regularly inspected and maintained, as its loss would force lengthy detours that could expose your family to unnecessary risks. The engineering assessment you perform during each patrol includes checking for structural damage, clearing debris, and ensuring continued accessibility. The salt-rich clay wallow near the heart of your territory provides mineral supplements that are essential for your family's health, but also attracts other animals who might compete for access. Your territorial defense must balance the need to maintain exclusive access to this critical resource against the energy costs of constantly driving away other species who also require mineral supplementation for their survival. The patrol route you follow has been optimized through years of experience to provide maximum territorial coverage with efficient energy expenditure. The circuit takes approximately 6 hours to complete at a thorough pace, allowing detailed inspection of all critical areas while returning you to your family before energy reserves become seriously depleted. This timing ensures that territorial defense doesn't compromise your primary responsibility for family protection and leadership. The psychological aspects of territorial ownership extend far beyond simple resource access to encompass fundamental security needs that affect every aspect of family life. A family group with secure territorial boundaries can forage more efficiently, rest more completely, and engage in social activities with greater relaxation than one that must constantly worry about territorial challenges and resource access. Your assessment of territorial threats requires constant evaluation of changing conditions that might affect your ability to maintain exclusive access to critical resources. Population pressure from neighboring groups, environmental changes that affect resource distribution, and seasonal variations in food availability all influence the intensity of territorial competition and the strategies required for successful defense. The success of your territorial patrol is measured not just by the absence of immediate challenges, but by the long-term security and prosperity of your family group. A well-defended territory allows your offspring to grow up in relative safety, provides reliable access to the resources needed for successful reproduction, and creates the stable environment necessary for passing cultural knowledge to the next generation of guerrillas who will eventually inherit responsibility for defending this same forest homeland. River rendezvous drinking, reflecting at the banks. The approach to water in the African forest requires the same careful attention that governs every aspect of guerrilla survival in an environment where complacency can prove fatal. As you lead your family toward the river's edge, your senses operate at maximum alertness, processing every sight, sound, and scent for indications of the danger that water sources inevitably attract. Rivers and streams serve as highways for predators, gathering points for competitors, and hunting grounds for the ancient reptiles, whose patience and power have earned them a place among Africa's most feared inhabitants. The slow, deliberate pace of your approach reflects hard-won wisdom about the risks associated with water access. Crocodiles represent perhaps the most serious threat your family faces at riverside locations, their ability to remain completely motionless for hours, making detection difficult until it's too late for escape. Your eyes scan the water's surface systematically, looking for the telltale ridges that might indicate eyes and nostrils breaking the surface, while your nose tests the air for the distinctive musky scent that announces reptilian presence. The riverbank itself presents additional hazards that require careful evaluation before committing your family to this exposed position. Soft mud can trap unwary feet, while steep banks might collapse under the weight of a massive silverback gorilla. Hidden roots and submerged debris create underwater obstacles that could complicate emergency escapes, and the open nature of riverside terrain provides little cover from aerial predators or rival guerrilla groups who might choose this moment for territorial challenges. Your family's drinking protocol follows established patterns that minimize individual vulnerability while ensuring everyone receives adequate hydration. You drink first, demonstrating proper technique while serving as an early warning system for any threats that might emerge during the process. Your massive hands cup the cool water with surprising delicacy, bringing it to your lips in careful quantities that allow continued monitoring of your surroundings between sips. The water itself tastes of rain and earth, filtered through countless kilometers of forest soil and vegetation that have removed impurities while adding the mineral complexity that your body craves. This natural purification process creates water that's both safe to drink and rich in the trace elements that supplement your plant-based diet. The cool liquid provides immediate relief from the heat and humidity that characterize daily life in the tropical forest. Behind you, family members wait their turns with the patient discipline that characterizes well-trained social groups. The juveniles watch your drinking technique with the focused attention of students learning critical survival skills, noting how you position yourself for quick escape, how you maintain awareness while drinking, and how you signal the all clear for others to approach the water's edge. The river serves as more than just a source of hydration, it's also a natural mirror that provides one of the few opportunities for self-observation available in the forest environment. As you lean forward to drink, your reflection appears in the slow-moving current, creating a dark image that wavers gently with the water's movement. This visual feedback allows assessment of your own physical condition, checking for injuries or signs of illness that might require attention. The sight of your own reflection seems to trigger moments of what can only be described as contemplation, though the nature of gorilla self-awareness remains one of the great mysteries of animal cognition. You pause between drinks to study the image that looks back at you from the water's surface, perhaps processing information about your own appearance, or simply experiencing the kind of quiet introspection that seems to characterize intelligent creatures when they encounter their own images. The juveniles, who eventually join you at the water's edge, transform the serious business of hydration into opportunities for play and exploration. They splash enthusiastically in the shallows, their smaller size making them less vulnerable to most aquatic threats, while allowing them to experiment with water's properties. Their play serves educational purposes, teaching them about buoyancy, current dynamics, and the limits of safe water interaction. The social dynamics of riverside gatherings provide opportunities for relaxed interaction that's difficult to achieve during the more structured activities of foraging and travel. Family members who might maintain respectful distances during feeding can cluster more closely during drinking, creating opportunities for gentle physical contact and quiet communication that strengthens group bonds. Your reflection in the water becomes a meditation point as clouds pass overhead, their shadows creating moving patterns across the liquid surface that blend your image with the sky above. This natural kaleidoscope creates visual poetry that seems to resonate with something deep in your consciousness, connecting you to the larger natural world in ways that transcend simple survival needs. The river's edge also serves as an information gathering point where the tracks and scents of other forest inhabitants create a bulletin board of local wildlife activity. The muddy banks preserve footprints that tell stories about who has visited this location, when they came, and what their current health and stress levels might be. This intelligence gathering helps you make informed decisions about territorial movements and threat assessment. The cooling effect of riverside breezes provides thermal relief that makes water sources attractive for reasons beyond simple hydration. The evaporation from the river's surface creates microclimates that can be several degrees cooler than the surrounding forest, offering natural air conditioning that helps your massive body manage heat stress during the warmest parts of the day. The sounds of flowing water create acoustic masking that provides both security and vulnerability, while the constant murmur of current over rocks helps conceal your family's presence from distant observers. It also makes it more difficult to detect approaching threats through auditory cues. This trade-off requires heightened visual vigilance to compensate for reduced acoustic awareness. As your family completes the drinking ritual and prepares to leave the riverside, you take one final look at your reflection in the moving water. The image wavers and disappears as wind disturbs the surface, but the memory of that momentary self-recognition lingers as you guide your family back into the protective embrace of the forest canopy. The successful water access represents another small victory in the daily challenge of keeping your loved ones safe and healthy in a world where every routine activity carries potential dangers and rewards. Night chorus building the evening nest. As the golden light of afternoon begins its gradual fade toward the purple shadows of tropical evening, the ancient ritual of nest construction calls to you with the urgent voice of survival instinct. This daily architecture project isn't simply about comfort, it's about security, thermoregulation, and positioning your family for maximum safety during the vulnerable hours of darkness, when leopards hunt and other dangers move through the forest with deadly stealth. The site selection process requires evaluation of multiple factors that could mean the difference between peaceful sleep and midnight terror. Your eyes scan potential nest trees with the methodical attention of an engineer assessing structural integrity, while your nose tests air currents for scent trails that might indicate predator presence or territorial conflicts. Height provides security from ground-based threats, but too much elevation increases exposure to wind and weather that could make sleep impossible. The forked branches you choose as the foundation for tonight's nest must meet precise criteria developed through years of nightly construction experience. The primary support branches must be strong enough to hold your massive frame without breaking, positioned at angles that allow stable weight distribution, and located at heights that provide security without excessive exposure. Secondary branches will form the weaving framework that transforms simple tree limbs into comfortable sleeping platforms. Your hands work with practiced efficiency as you begin the intricate process of bending and weaving fresh boughs into the circular platform that will cradle your body through the night. Each branch must be carefully positioned to support your weight while maintaining the flexibility that allows the entire structure to move gently with wind rather than fighting it rigidly. The engineering principles involved would impress human architects who design buildings to withstand natural forces. The fresh green boughs you select for nest construction aren't chosen randomly. They represent specific species with properties that enhance sleeping comfort and safety. Some branches provide natural insect repellent qualities that help minimize parasite problems during sleep. Others offer aromatic compounds that might mask your scent from predators, while still others contribute structural properties that improve nest durability and comfort. Your family members begin their own nest construction projects in nearby trees, creating a scattered sleeping community that maximizes both mutual protection and individual safety. The spacing between nests reflects careful calculation of social proximity, needs balanced against tactical considerations, close enough for rapid communication and mutual defense, far enough apart to avoid creating concentrated targets for predators. The construction techniques you employ have been refined through millions of years of evolutionary pressure, with each generation adding improvements that enhance survival rates and sleeping comfort. The way you overlap branches to shed rain, position yourself to take advantage of thermal currents, and orient the nest opening for optimal escape routes all reflect accumulated wisdom about safe sleeping in dangerous environments. Wind resistance becomes a critical factor as you position branches to create structural integrity that can withstand the inevitable nighttime breezes that sweep through the forest canopy. Your nest must be sturdy enough to remain stable during gusts that could otherwise send you plummeting to the forest floor, but flexible enough to bend rather than break under extreme stress. The younger members of your family watch your construction process with the focused attention of students learning skills that will determine their future survival success. They note how you test branch strength, how you weave structural elements together, and how you position the finished nest for optimal safety and comfort. This education in practical engineering will serve them throughout their lives as independent adult gorillas. The acoustic environment of evening nest construction includes the rising chorus of nocturnal creatures beginning their nightly activities. Tree frogs add their voices to the growing symphony, while insects create rhythmic percussion that will provide the soundtrack for your night's rest. This natural lullaby helps mask the sounds of your family's presence while providing auditory information about forest conditions. Escape route planning forms an essential component of your nest construction strategy. Even while focusing on comfort and stability, you must ensure that rapid exit remains possible if circumstances require immediate departure. The branches you choose and the way you position your body must allow quick movement toward alternative routes through the canopy if ground-based escape becomes impossible. The thermal considerations that influence nest design reflect sophisticated understanding of heat transfer and microclimate management. Your massive body generates substantial heat during sleep, and proper nest construction helps regulate temperature by promoting air circulation while providing insulation against heat loss during cooler pre-dawn hours. The psychological comfort provided by a well-constructed nest extends far beyond simple physical support to encompass the emotional security that allows deep, restorative sleep. Knowing that you've chosen an optimal location and built a structurally sound sleeping platform reduces anxiety and allows the kind of complete relaxation that's essential for maintaining the strength and alertness your family depends upon. As darkness finally claims the forest and the nocturnal symphony reaches full volume, you settle into the nest you've created with the satisfaction of another successful day in the wild. The platform that seemed like simple bent branches just an hour ago now feels like a secure cradle that will protect you through the night's journey into the mysterious world of forest dreams. The cricket chorus that provides tonight's lullaby creates rhythmic patterns that seem designed to promote sleep and relaxation. This natural white noise helps mask potentially alarming sounds, while providing the kind of repetitive acoustic backdrop that enhances the transition from wakefulness to the restorative rest that will prepare you for tomorrow's challenges. The distant rumble of thunder on the horizon suggests that tonight's sleep might be accompanied by the gentle percussion of rain on leaves overhead, adding another layer to the complex soundscape that will surround your dreams. But your nest construction has anticipated this possibility with branch positioning that will shed water rather than collecting it, ensuring comfort even during tropical downpours. As consciousness gradually fades and sleep begins to claim your awareness. The successful completion of another daily survival cycle brings the deep satisfaction that comes from protecting those you love in an environment where every sunset might be your last. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, but tonight's careful preparation has earned the right to peaceful rest in the embrace of the forest that has been home to your kind for countless generations. Moonlit vigil, guarding against poachers. The silver light of the full moon transforms the familiar forest into an alien landscape of shadows and whispered threats, where every rustle of leaves might herald the approach of the two-legged predators who represent the greatest danger your family will ever face. Unlike leopards, whose motivations you understand and whose behaviors follow predictable patterns, humans bring chaos and technology that can destroy your world in ways that millions of years of evolution never prepared you to handle. The historical memory embedded in your genetic code carries the trauma of countless encounters between your species and the humans who have systematically reduced gorilla populations throughout Africa. The wire snares that have claimed family members, the gunshots that have shattered forest peace, and the gradual encroachment of human settlements into traditional gorilla territory have created an evolutionary pressure unlike any your ancestors faced during their millions of years of forest survival. Your patrol tonight carries special urgency because recent signs have indicated human activity in areas that have remained undisturbed for years. The metallic scent that doesn't belong in the organic complexity of forest chemistry, the unnatural straight lines of cut vegetation, and the lingering odor of petroleum products all point to human presence in your territory. These alien signatures trigger alarm responses that send adrenaline coursing through your massive frame. The wire snares that poachers set throughout the forest represent perhaps the most insidious threat your family faces. These simple but deadly devices can remain hidden for weeks, waiting patiently for any large animal unlucky enough to step into their killing embrace. The wire tightens automatically when triggered, creating injuries that range from deep cuts to complete limb amputation, depending on the victim's size and the struggle that follows entrapment. Your knowledge of snare detection has been acquired through tragic experience and careful observation of areas where human poaching activity has occurred in the past. The subtle signs that indicate snare placement, disturbed vegetation patterns, unusual arrangements of branches, and the almost invisible glint of wire in moonlight represent survival information that you must constantly update and share with your family through careful demonstration. The silent patrol you conduct tonight requires movement patterns completely different from your normal forest navigation. Instead of the confident, straightforward travel that characterizes daytime movement, you move with exaggerated caution, testing each step before committing your full weight, examining every shadow for the telltale signs of human technology that could maim or kill family members. Your ability to detect the metallic scent of steel wire represents one of your most valuable anti-poaching skills. Human manufacturing leaves chemical signatures that persist long after installation, creating olfactory warnings that can save lives if detected early enough. Your nose, capable of distinguishing thousands of different scent molecules, can identify the alien chemistry of human-made materials against the organic backdrop of natural forest odors. The dismantling of discovered snares requires both physical strength and tactical intelligence. Simply destroying the traps isn't enough. You must understand their placement patterns to predict where others might be hidden, and your destruction methods must ensure that the devices can't be quickly repaired or replaced. Your powerful hands can snap steel wire that would be impossible for humans to break, but the process must be conducted carefully to avoid injury from sharp edges or spring-loaded mechanisms. The emotional impact of discovering snares extends far beyond simple fear to encompass a kind of grief for the loss of innocence that human encroachment represents. The forest that once provided complete security for your family has been transformed into a landscape of hidden dangers, where every step requires vigilance and every familiar path might conceal deadly surprises. Your family's response to your anti-poaching patrol demonstrates their complete trust in your ability to navigate these human-created dangers. They follow your lead without question, mimicking your cautious movement patterns and maintaining the heightened alertness that has become necessary for survival in a world where humans pose greater threats than any natural predator. The conservation efforts that some humans have undertaken to protect gorilla populations represent a complex reality that challenges simple categorization of all humans as threats. The dedicated individuals who risk their own safety to guard gorilla families, the researchers who work to understand and protect gorilla habitat, and the conservationists who fight against poaching and habitat destruction demonstrate that not all human interaction with gorillas is destructive. But distinguishing between protective humans and threatening ones requires discrimination abilities that exceed the capabilities of even the most intelligent gorillas. The safest strategy remains complete avoidance of human contact, treating all two-legged intruders as potential threats until their intentions can be clearly determined through careful observation from safe distances. The hope that drives conservation efforts worldwide reflects humanity's growing recognition that the loss of species like mountain gorillas would represent an irreplaceable tragedy for global biodiversity. The intelligence, social complexity, and emotional richness that characterize gorilla families provide windows into evolutionary history and ecological relationships that would disappear forever if current population declines continue unchecked. Your moonlit vigil tonight represents just one battle in a larger war for survival that extends far beyond individual family groups to encompass entire species and ecosystems. The success of your anti-poaching efforts protects not just your immediate family, but also the genetic diversity and cultural knowledge that make gorilla populations viable over long-term timescales. The technological tools that poachers employ continue to evolve, requiring constant adaptation of anti-poaching strategies and detection methods. Night vision equipment, silent firearms, and increasingly sophisticated snare designs challenge your ability to protect your family using only the natural senses and intelligence that evolution has provided. The dedication required for effective anti-poaching patrol takes a significant toll on your energy reserves and stress levels. The hypervigilance necessary to detect human threats compromises the relaxation and rest that you need for optimal health and leadership effectiveness. This chronic stress represents one of the hidden costs of human encroachment into gorilla habitat. As dawn approaches and you complete another successful night of anti-poaching patrol, the relief of having kept your family safe through another period of vulnerability provides temporary satisfaction. But the knowledge that tomorrow night will require the same vigilance, the same caution, and the same careful balance between protection and paranoia ensures that true peace remains elusive in a world where human activities continue to threaten the ancient rhythms of forest.